Hello, welcome back. This is Jacob, and today we are gonna be finishing off the narration for the side story Lingering Echoes in Arknights. And considering this is the final part of this side story narration mini-series on the channel, I will do pretty much what I usually do on these episodes. So for the newcomers at the end of the episode, I'll basically voice my thoughts about certain things, plot, characters, and so on and so forth. Little spoiler ahead, I liked it a lot. But outside of that, considering this is, as I said, the final episode for this side story, I would like to put out a little question, especially for newcomers who might be listening to these narrations as well, especially to the game or any kind of newcomers, essentially. Considering there will be a small gap until the next side story releases, I think it's like a 2-week gap, considering there is still EX stages that need to be open for this very event. Also, first off, actually now that I mentioned it, first off, regarding the EX stages, if there is, and sometimes there is, but if there is gonna be any kind of extra cutscenes or story that open up together with the EX stages, looking at you, Stultiferonaris, I will obviously record and add them to the already existing playlist for this side story and upload it in the same way of fashion I did these so far 3 episodes for it, and pretty much anything else on the channel. So if there's gonna be story, expect to see it when it pops up. If there is no story with the EX stages, and feel free to tell me so in the comment section if you already know about that. Obviously just saying if there is a story, not telling you what the story is, just to clarify. But yeah, if there is story, I'll add it to the narration and the playlist of this. If there is no story, obviously there is nothing gonna happen, essentially. But yeah, outside of that, coming back to what I was gonna ask, considering there's gonna be a small gap next week, and the only thing next week that I'm gonna be picking up again to narrate on the channel will be the main campaign going forward with episode 9, aka chapter 9. Considering that is a mostly like once per a week and a half at most, at the usual at least. If there's any for the newcomers amongst you guys who are listening to this, side stories that I haven't covered yet on the channel and you might want to see and hear narrated. So if there's anything out of the catalog, and there's a huge catalog, just point me in the direction, essentially. Just say it in the comment section. I'll appreciate any kind of input in that regard. But outside of that, today's episode will also end in 2 ways. One way will be, as I think I said earlier, just my rambling about the story and the characters, essentially. But the other one will be a music thing. Let's put it that way. A similar thing that I did for a recent main story episode narration, where I put a piece of music at the end, I'm gonna do for this episode as well. And no, it is not a piece of music that appears in today's episode or that has appeared so far, but it is an official music piece by commissioned by Hypergriff, and currently only exists, I think, officially exists on their Bilibili channel, but you'll hear it, you'll see it. It will probably, like anything else that they are doing, be uploaded to both the official EN and Japanese and all the other YouTube channels that are associated with the global client of the game that is out of sync with the Chinese client. So probably gonna appear in a day or two. So I will, as per usual, provide a link to the video on YouTube's side, which is on the page of the Arknights Archive YouTube channel. But obviously for now the piece is officially only on Bilibili, but will probably be available like anything else when a week or 2 passes. They usually release these official EPs after a certain time of the story has passed. Plus, considering I've already been mentioning throughout the episode so far that pretty much every single stage is a reference to something in name, I will leave also a link for a pretty big Reddit post that you can peruse at your leisure, essentially, when you want. That pretty much has listed every single one of the stages and its titles, with what they are, where they're from, who composed them, and so on and so forth. So feel free to go through it. It was a very interesting read for myself as well. That was pretty dope, essentially. So all props to the Redditor who composed it. So you'll find the link in the video too, in this very video. But yeah, as per usual, if you want to skip this part now as I quickly recap the previous episode, just hit the timestamp in the comment section below. I'll try and be short, as I'm always trying, but I always ramble. But let's begin with the usual spiel off on the previous episode. Well, Hibiscus cooked food. The end. Nice talking to everybody. Bye. No, but in reality, we learned a couple of things on the previous part. Most importantly, we learned that Hibiscus still cannot cook. Well, she can, but it's horrible, and everybody runs away to eat something with actual substance. I still love that scene. It made me crack up so much when I read it originally before the actual recording. But in other regards, we learned mostly about the past of the city we are in, aka Vyseheim, the Afterglow region or district of the said city, and most importantly, we learned about the history of our two precious boys here, Abendrot and Kryide. We learned about essentially, that they knew each other already since they were little kids, and that the two of them both are of the bloodline of the Witch King. And as such, they were both abducted along other people who were also amongst his bloodkin, to be experimented on, essentially, by a cult that either is worshipping the Witch King himself or is just worshipping the very existence of the word of Terra, essentially. But essentially, the experiments were pretty brutal. Pretty much everybody died, besides the two boys that we meet in this story. And the experiment was essentially just a thing of transplanting in quotes, the voice of Terra into the bloodline of the Witch King, which in Kryide's case caused it to work out, but it was broken in a sense that it couldn't be controlled. It was permanently in on mode, even though it was running on very low energy. While in Abendrot's case, it was a pure success. He then later gets actually rescued out of the hands of the cult, and he gets brought to be under the protection, quotes, of the Graf Urtica of that time. And as we see in those scenes, well, he was basically being just caged in like a little birdie, and the guy was just waiting for him to be old enough so he can make him into a freaking drunkard and control him even better, I guess. He just wants the bloodline to continue. He didn't care about anything else. But here we have Abendrot, who has actually managed to get, or is essentially still trying to get away from all of that, as we've learned so far from the story. Furthermore, we have learned that our dear coffee seller is indeed a spy for one of the 40 twin empresses, the current rulers of Leithanien. And he confronted Abendrot, who was pursuing another sneaky figure who was doing the bidding of the Gräfin Gertrude the entire time, and was very much instigating all the nonsense that we have seen amongst the people. And we ended on a tiny little cliffhanger then, with Kryide running into Originium slugs? But most importantly as well, throughout the entire last part, we have seen the two boys they pretty much are brothers. They're pretty much best buds and brothers. The whole relationship between those two is very precious just to observe as it is unfolding. But let us begin with today's story on stage 6, titled Danse Macabre. We hail from the earth and shall one day turn to dust upon it, but not today. So, one important part that I completely skipped that I forgot to say. Considering this is a final part, usually in these side stories and in the main story narration that I'm doing, when a chapter is nearing its final part or there are battles that are worthy just to showcase for certain reasons, I do so. Usually for the side stories, I usually just keep it at the final battle here. But in today's episode, we will have actually 2 battle stages showcased during this narration. One being the battle for on stage 7, and obviously the final battle on stage 8. So just so you are aware, we're going to be going over them. I will, however, before I click into them, be fiddling around with the sound settings so that the only thing the majority of things you can hear will be mostly the music, hopefully. But outside of that, let's begin with stage 6, before story. Two men strike forward in the wide, dark sewers. The sound of water is loud and grating, even more sinister than unbroken silence. Hold on a minute, make a right here. You sure know this place well? Of course I do. Something every spy should know. The first thing every spy should know. And I'm sure you've already been working in the Afterglow for years. Trying to get on my good side. Just curious. You're not privy to that information. Disappointing. Why'd you stop moving? There's something over there. That's the oldest trick in the book. Don't even bother. No, I'm serious. Look, over there. Something's moving. Beagler presses the weapon in his hand against Graf Urtika's heart from behind, his eyes then following the direction of the Graf's fingers. It's just an Originium slug. You've never seen one of these before. Is it really just an Originium slug? The high and mighty Graf Urtika was so scared by an Originium slug that he couldn't even walk. Now I've seen everything. I still think there's something not quite right. Stop being stupid and get a move on. Fine. Wait, just a second. Isn't that an awful lot of slugs? That's way too many. This is going to be a major problem. Run. Now. Why are you... It's about to be too late already. Hurry up! Beagler grasps Ebenholz's wrist tightly. The two of them sprint through the sewers. Do you have a map of the sewers inside your head? If you have the time to quip at me, you'd be better off spending it to catch your breath. I'm not trying to be sarcastic. Every branch we take seriously looks the same to me. Rest it up. We just... Then keep running. Hurry. I can't keep going. That's fine. We just happened to find who we were looking for. Good evening, Herr Lachmann. Good evening, Shopkeep. Shopkeep? Ugh, you don't know a damn thing, but you still have to stick your nose where it doesn't belong. What a pain you are. When you agree, Beagler. Agreed. But you're the one who's in real trouble. You provoked all the originium slugs in the area, and they are swarming towards the surface. As we both know, the originium slugs in the sewers emit a noxious gas, and what you're doing is tantamount to a chemical attack on the infected in the Afterglow. A chemical attack? But aren't we fine right now? The gas has a much stronger effect on the infected than it does on you, Graf Urtica. Then Czerny and Hibiscus. And Kryide too. Good. You already understand the situation. Lachman, quell these originium slugs and return them to their original state immediately, or I will exercise my right to put you down on the spot. It's no longer possible. A lone man can start a fire easy enough, but even if you point a knife at his neck, he won't be able to put it out alone. What do you people get out of this? What do we get? How do you not even know that much? Not interested in hearing your riddles. Pestilence from shadow, wanton spouts, spews ruin in prelude. Do you really need me to explain it word by word? Let me rephrase. What do you get out of making the prophecy come true? You don't need to worry about that. What are you trying to do? Silence him? Just knock him out already, my dear, mean-spirited spy. Do you have any way of controlling these slugs? If I did, I wouldn't be wasting my breath on him. Then let's get going before it's too late. Beagler just glares sharply. You're more than meets the eye, Graf Urtica. Fine, I'll carry him out, and you follow me. Wait, hold up, that's... Ebenhold sees the same thing Beagler sees. Where Lachman has fallen, something silvery is glistening on the sewer wall. It's a keyhole. There might be some kind of device inside controlling the originium slugs. I'll blow the door open. Let me see if I can pick the lock first. It'd be bad news if you blew up something important. Can you open it? The lock's pretty tough. A tough nut to crack, but it won't get the better of me. While you're working on that, mind telling me what this prophecy is all about? You've never heard of it? Well, whatever, it's spreading around anyway. Or lofty hills, the fiend steps into twilight's midst the gaze. The blood hides plague within, slow beckons death to creep all ways. Pestilence from shadow, wanton spouts, spews ruin in prelude. Fate's finale's ensemble, woe departs with sun's last rays. Ensemble? Woe? Right. To be honest, I'm still curious what the last verse means. Everything else is already fairly clear. The first verse refers to Hibiscus arriving in the Afterglow, and the second refers to the phenomenon of false recovery. You even knew about that. What do you think a spy's job is? Now, the third verse is also clear. All that remains is the last one. It's open. Now, that's something. A laboratory. Oh, it's you. Thank you for organizing. Herr Czerny, the situation outside has gone to hell in a basket. Swarms of noxious originium slugs started coming up from the sewers, and a lot of the people have already been poisoned. It's total chaos out on the streets now. They're saying this is part of the prophecy, and panic is spreading through the Afterglow. How did this all happen? We can't do much about people panicking right now, But how about those who were poisoned? They're not looking too good, especially those whose Oripathy started getting better recently. They're having even more violent reactions. We've already contacted the hospital, but the medical staff on the line didn't seem very motivated when they heard that we're in the Afterglow. Not motivated? I'll go negotiate with the hospital then. It's too dangerous outside, you better just call. If they didn't care when you made the call, it won't make a difference if I'm the one on the line. This is something I'll have to take care of in person. But tomorrow's the day of the concert, and if you get poisoned... If these inexplicable events result in death, do you think people will be in any mood to enjoy the music, even if the concert continues as planned? I don't want things to reach that point, nor do I want to pretend as if nothing is happening. I'd rather not play a single note than lie to myself. Why are there so many slugs? It reeks. What is this stench? I'll help you. Let's get out of here. Looks like the prophecy is coming true. Damn pests, stay away! Kraus, get up! Help! Someone, anyone! Is someone playing the cello? All the slugs are going in the direction of the music? Thank you. Kraus, stand up, here. Hold on to my shoulder. Hold on tight. Let's go now. Kryide whispers, "You're welcome." With Kryide at the epicenter, the tones of the cello spread out across the narrow streets and alleys of the Afterglow. Wherever the cello's notes traveled, the Originium slugs turn around one after another. Those who had been surrounded think the crisis is over, that the poison exhaling insects will soon retreat to the dark sewers under the guidance of the cellos too. But they are wrong. Both where they can and cannot see, Originium slugs make their way towards Kryide. Finally, made it. Now, what do I just blow all these slugs up with art? Something's not right here. Now, what is it, my good spy? The Originium slugs are all congregating in one place. A cello? Kryide, what are you doing? Stop that right now. No yelling. It won't do any good and will only mess up your lungs. Help me get through. I told you, stop shouting. He won't stop playing just because you're shouting, and I won't stand aside just because you aren't. Then, let's combine forces and clear a path to Kryide. I don't think so. I'll head in the opposite direction. Are you going back to your coffee shop? Yes, we worked together to create an opening. Now we will part ways. I'm sure you can't wait to head back to your shop and study those torn documents you retrieved from the lab, right? I'm so glad the research notes about the Voice of Terra are so much more interesting than the lives of the infected. Kryide's situation is your own damn fault, so you can solve it yourself. Also, if I found out that even a single word in those notes and plans was written by you, just you wait. I'll be waiting. Enough. That's the end of our chat. We're going on the count of 3. Coffee spy man being cool as fuck. Anyway, that leads obviously into the stage, and we will continue on with the after story. Kryide, I'm coming. Stop playing the cello. Are you trying to get yourself killed? That is something I've considered. I'll draw all the slugs over with the sound of my cello and then burn myself to ashes along with them. But now that you're here, I probably won't have a chance to do that anymore. Kryide, why? Ever since I was little, I knew there was something wrong with me. The infected who spent a lot of time around me, their sickness kept getting worse and worse. My grandpa and I were chased out of our home for it. We started wandering between villages. I always thought it wasn't all infected people, that as long as they didn't spend too much time around me, they'd be fine. But my grandpa's condition finally started to deteriorate, and that shattered my first illusion. After that, Hibiscus told us about the phenomenon of false recovery. I've already caused such serious damage in the short time I came to the Afterglow. If me living brings calamity to others, then I would rather die. It's not your fault. How is it not my fault? Do you know about the voice of Terra? Now that you mention it, I think I'm finally starting to remember. About the voice of Terra, those who died in the experiment, the Witch King's remains, and you. I remember it all now. That's why none of this is your fault. The Witch King and his remains are to blame, as well as Gertrude, but you're innocent. Thank you for reminding me that this isn't something I was born with. It was the foul product of an experiment. I couldn't remember either until I heard the sound of your cello, so I should be thanking you. But what? The situation has already spiraled out of control. I can't even mitigate the harm I cause anymore. Besides, if the Graffin's words are true and my days are numbered, I might as well do something here. No. Why would I get myself tricked by Gertrude? Voices of the mundane can be swapped out. But mine is already corrupted. Even if I were to transfer it to you, we won't know until we try. If you're already prepared to die, then what are you still scared of? I don't want to hurt you. You can worry about that if something bad actually happens to me. Until then, let's make a wager. Fine. Can you normally feel the melody of the voice of Terra? Whether I'm performing or casting arts, I can always vaguely feel the presence of the voice. I know this shrill melody well by now, even though it's not all mine. I know. Mine isn't shrill. If anything, it's gentler, rather. I should say that it's so harmonious, almost to the point of being an empty void. Let's try our best to match the melodies we've experienced, and put them together. Put them together? But we don't have an audience. No, look at the audience all around us. The Originium slugs? Playing to Originium slugs the melodies that the old bastard left behind is quite fitting, if you ask me. Humane, even. As soon as the sounds of the flute and cello intermingle, both men immediately recognize the problem. There is hardly any consonance between their two melodies. The flute's voice is urgent, manic, and harsh. It speeds up and slows down, as if filled with the urge to drag everything before it into the abyss. The cello's voice is languid, melancholic, and hollow. Its rhythm remains constant, akin to a land ground down to nothingness by catastrophe. But the two brace themselves and persevere, continuing their duet that is not a duet. The slugs surge forward like the tide. Underneath a noxious sky, the two men whose lives have been twisted by their voices of the mundane continue their discordant duet, reading the score of a melody that they never knew existed in their minds, playing before an audience. of Originium slugs. The more Ebenholz follows his train of thought, the more he feels himself approaching the coda of the voice of Terra's melody. He puts more force behind his breaths, while the sounds of Kryde's cello grow heavier and hollower. Ebenholz, Ebenholz lowers his head to look towards Kryide. Kryde's head has already begun to droop. His hand continues bowing, but the cello's sound becomes dimmer and dimmer, getting closer and closer to nothingness. Suddenly, in this moment, Ebenholz seems to realize something. So he uses his remaining strength to blow one final sforzando. Kryide also seems to be struggling, laboriously sewing at the thickest string of the instrument. Their music spreads like an alarm bell. The slugs that had been frantically rushing towards the pair of musicians suddenly retreated just as quickly, as if they have seen a predator. Kryide, are you still with me? Kryide, are you still awake? Kryide drawing heavy breaths. I'm awake. How's that? Can you still hear the melody of your voice of terror? To be honest, it seems even clearer now. Sorry, I acted without thinking. But on the bright side, we managed to drive away the Originium slugs. Hold on. Kryide, what's wrong? The new suit you bought for me. Oh, good, it hasn't been soiled. Probably doesn't smell too good though, right? True enough. It's fine. I bet you can't even imagine how much I reek right now. Speaking of which, this wouldn't be the first time I've gotten myself into this mess. That time a fire broke out not far from the spire of Urtica. Instead of going to put out the fire, the spire's attendants all rushed over to make sure I couldn't go anywhere. They were afraid you'd run away. Afraid that I'd run away, afraid that I'd go into hiding, afraid that I'd die in the sea of fire. They worried about you dying. Nearly all the windows in the spire had arts enhanced bars and locks, just in case I tried to jump off. I was a prized figurehead. If I went off and died, they wouldn't have been able to endure the consequences. In the end, the flames never reached the spire, but I did get marinated in the smell of smoke. I wore that smoke-soaked coat for a good half-month and didn't take it off until the weather warmed. That brings back old memories here as well. After my grandpa and I were run out of our old home, I started to wander between some of the more affluent villages. Most people were pretty friendly to us, as long as we hid the fact that we were infected. I read in novels that during the harvest season, friendly villagers would prepare bratwurst and beer for the day workers at night, so they could eat and drink to their heart's content. Kryide just shakes his head. The friendly villagers threw some spare change at us and shooed us out of the village before nightfall, in fear that we'd steal things. The not-so-friendly villagers prepared some rock-hard Schwarzbrot and pointed weapons at us, intended to make us fall in line. Oh, right. Schwarzbrot is basically, I don't know what it's called technically in English, because in my own language, it's literally the same thing, just translated, obviously, word by word. I guess dark bread, black bread, I don't know what in English it's called, but yeah. Continuing. One time I was helping a villager out with some farm work. It was really hot that day and I was dripping with sweat, so I wanted to loosen my clothes while nobody was around. Right before I was about to take off my shirt, I heard a commotion not far away. Grandpa rushed over and told me to run, saying that one of the workers rolled up his sleeves thinking nobody was watching, accidentally revealing the originium crystals on his arm. The villagers immediately threw him into an abandoned cellar and locked him up, and then set out to check everyone else one by one. If not for Grandpa, I might have also died in that cellar. Died? They actually killed the infected? They didn't need to, nor did they dare. All they had to do was wait for them to starve, crystallize, and explode. So, just in general, I want to say here, for people who are listening to this narration and are new to the game and are wondering what happens if in other places, like, I think for the longest time in the main story they are sort of vague. They're kind of explaining it, what happens, but not fully. But what Kryide here says is pretty much the process of what a infected body goes through. You get infected, the oripathy, or rather the originium inside the body, starts growing. It starts encompassing organs, starts hindering functions of your body, starts even replacing organs like the skin, aka, I want to remind people, the skin is an organ. No matter how weird it sounds to say, the skin is an organ. But yeah, replacing portions of skin in some cases. And when the person carrying the originium dies, they crystallize, and big fat explosion occurs that just spreads the originium around. And if people are near it, well, it's funny to think about how much originium is actually working in a similar way to how some funguses work, right? But anyway, sorry for the interjection. Continuing. Hasn't there been a long-standing law to treat the infected with dignity? I never knew about a decree like that until I first set foot in a nomadic city. I'm so sorry. I don't know what to say. You have nothing to apologize for. You were also deceived by the Gräfin. No, what I mean is, if I had been a little braver back then, if I had spoken up back then, maybe you wouldn't have to... I'm sorry. Really, you don't have anything to apologize for. Just as you said, the Voice of Terra was made by men. The blame falls onto those who sought to use the Voice of Terra, not on you. I protected you in the manner I could. Just like you're trying to protect me now. You're right. Thank you, Kryide. Come, let's find Hibiscus and Herr Czerny. They'll know what to do, I'm sure of it. And then we'll have that Voice of Terror removed from you. You can thank me properly after that. Let's go. Kryide? Kryde's condition is more or less stable. The reason he passed out most likely has to do with the poison. We've rescued a number of poisoning patients whose signs and symptoms largely match with Kryde's. But on the subject of Kryde's future, the Countess probably didn't lie. Overall, his condition is on the edge of critical. So, you'll help us, won't you? I want to trust the two of you, I really do. But I need proof. Even if it's circumstantial evidence, I need some objective facts to show that the Voice of Terra isn't baseless speculation, but a part of an imminent plot. Sir? Where have you been? We've been looking all over for you. Lies? Speculation? Can you be 100% sure that what you say is true? What you said to Kryide, do you know what he almost... do you know that he almost died along with those originium slugs because of your words? Ebenholz, is that true? Ebenholz just nods slightly. Had Ebenholz not found him first, you would have never seen him again. I'm telling you, the voice of terror is real. That I swear on my life. What do you mean? I don't have the time to explain it to you right now. I have work to do. But I need to... You're among the most stubborn folk I've ever met. Go to the lounge of the concert hall and you'll understand everything. Right, the concert hall. Gertrude said she did something to Afterglow Hall to make it match with the arts during the Duet. Alright, let's go right away. There's also Cherny. Make sure you bring him as well, in case neither of you can convince the other. I have to go now. Sir, you... Ebenholz and Hibiscus trade glances. They are both suspicious, but they are also running out of time. Alright, continuing on to stage 7, and reminder, this will be a stage that I will showcase in this narration, but first we go over the story. First off, titled Verklärte Nacht. The voice of the music sounds on and out, beyond even the sky. So, let's begin with the before part. He's not here? Mein Herr stepped out a while ago. He left. He's off to the hospital just outside the Afterglow to talk treatment for the infected who got poisoned. What's this, mein Herr? The hospital? I managed to twist the arms of the largest two and got them to sign contracts. But as for the rest, there's no hope. But Rhode Island signed an agreement with those hospitals. Oh, I didn't notice you were here as well. There's no point. Rhode Island's contracts are limited to symptoms caused by Oripathy itself. They have ample grounds to not treat infected patients who've fallen ill from poisoning. But, mein Herr, you've got those two hospitals. That should be enough, right? Enough? Of course it's enough. I put every copyright I had down as collateral. Of course the consortium behind them thinks that's enough. Don't tell me you transferred all your copyrights over to that consortium. I did. Not just the existing copyrights. I even sold the distribution rights for tomorrow's concert to them. Now I can start from scratch. Mein Herr? You're awake? Mr. Cherny, you didn't take any precautionary measures when you went out, did you? You're talking about the fumes from the Originium slugs. I didn't waste a single second getting those contracts signed. That's all that mattered to me when I left. Promise me you'll never be that reckless ever again. Ever again? Are you saying I still have time left to live? That's why I'm here. Huh. You never want to see a doctor until your body gives out on you. Thank you, Hibiscus. I'm just doing my job. That reminds me, why haven't you said anything, Ebenholz? Are you thinking of throwing in the towel now that the Afterglow is too dangerous? I'll tell you straight, now that we've come this far, the concert must go on. Don't even think about running. Don't even think about running, huh? Ebenholz whispers, do you think he'd accept it now? Give it a moment. Seems like you're not here to tell me you're quitting the concert. No, I'm here to tell you I'm not here to tell you I'm quitting the concert. Ebenholz, you repeat what others say when you get nervous. I've noticed it from the very beginning. If you have something to say, just spit it out. You think there's anything I wouldn't be able to accept in the state I'm in now? Mr. Cherny, here, water.
Damn that Gertrude. And you, how could you possibly go along with a plan like that? Curse me for thinking you had some creative talent, and this is what you use it for? Some evil plot.
It wasn't my intention.
How could it not be? Haven't you answered to that crazy woman from the very beginning?
Journey, I still remember what you said. Even deeply rooted hatred can still be pure music as long as it is expressed with the right technique.
I did say that, but what comes next? What are you trying to express?
To be honest, I'm already starting to find my old way of thinking quite laughable. But what I wish to pursue is nothing more than freedom.
Freedom. A longing for freedom, is it?
That's right.
You've got a long way to go before you can express that using music.
This has long been a deeply rooted experience for me, otherwise I wouldn't have come to you.
Come now.
Where are we going?
Where else? The concert hall. Gertrude managed to keep me out of the lounge with her little tricks last time, but we're going to get to the bottom of this.
But your health?
Instead of sitting here popping blood vessels over him and that woman, I might as well go and see what they're up to.
Abendrot, did Gertrude ever tell you if she did anything in the lounge?
She didn't say anything. She doesn't have to say anything.
You can already tell?
Her fingerprints are all over this place. See that speaker right there? It shows obvious signs of having been dismantled. The same goes for the record player over there. She didn't even bother to tighten the screws. Even the screwdriver's been left out in the open. Just the kind of handiwork I'd expect from a noble. Hilarious. Hibiscus, bring that record player out over. Let's see what else has been tampered with besides the tone arm. See for yourself.
Did she just install an amplifier? It's only going to cause interference between the circuits.
She already had the stylus removed. This thing's basically just an amplifier now. Same with the speakers. The input circuit was completely removed and replaced with an amplifier. What is she trying to do? Putting so many amplifiers in the lounge?
She never mentioned it.
Then let's give it a try. Go up on stage and play something. That'll be the fastest way to get our answer.
Doesn't seem like anything unusual is happening.
I can't hear anything out of the ordinary either. Go over and tell Abendrot to apply a little bit of arts, only the simplest kind to disperse drowsiness, maintained strictly at the lowest level.
Journey.
Don't worry about me. I just got some palpitation. Abendrot, stand over here and try using the same arts as before. Remember to mind the volume.
An echo?
It's a sound coming from outside.
But isn't it the sound of Abendrot's flute?
Journey opens his mouth, but no voice comes out. The answer already seems clear to him. However, the expression Hibiscus sees on his face is not one for excitement or anger, but of terror. pure terror. Gertrude converted his lounge, no, the entire Afterglow hall, into a massive amplifier, an arts amplification device. The amplifier stays off as long as it doesn't detect any musical arts. But as soon as someone casts musical arts, the amplification device activates and exponentially amplifies the arts as the music spreads through the Afterglow. The leakages and resonance of the Voice of Terra are no exception.
Ebenholz just stares vacantly. In other words, Originium activation will spike in all areas that are affected, meaning that everyone in Vyseheim, virtually without exception, will be infected. And those who already have Oripathy are even less likely to be spared. After they die, their bodies will rapidly disintegrate, releasing a large amount of active Originium microparticles. The surrounding area will be permanently poisoned. Vyseheim will be completely cut off from the outside world. Very sorry to interrupt you, little chap, but I'm here to offer a suggestion. Why cast arts of wakefulness across all of Vyseheim on such a beautiful night? I often suffer from insomnia. My apologies, but we are dealing with something very important right now.
Gertrude?
Good evening, Journey. And this must be Operator Hibiscus from Rhode Island, yes. It is a pleasure to meet you. As for the young man in shock over there, why not come visit my home for something to drink? Perhaps have a nice night's rest and return energized tomorrow?
Gertrude? To think you'd actually...
And actually what? Don't tell me you're going to say that I'd actually deceive you and make you murder half the city? That can't be right. What you're actually mad about is how I had you running in circles and nearly got you killed without you even noticing, right? Show us your pride as a noble Graf Urtica. Come on, say something. Ebenholz, she's trying to provoke you. There's only one thing I need to know from you right now. Why did you come here? I came because you woke me up. Why else? I'll take that as you heard the musical arts rippling outwards and realized your plans had been discovered. That's correct. What a pity. With just one more day, I would have enjoyed a complete success. Don't you think you should be thinking about how to escape? Do you seriously think your plan will proceed as normal if you manage to take us out here? Ebenholz won't help you anymore, and regardless of what you were planning for the Duet, it's not going to happen now. Really? That's not how I see it. As long as Ebenholz and Kryide are here, my plan has not failed. As long as I eliminate you, I can continue negotiating with Graf Urtica. He is quite familiar with the art of the noble dealings, and changing his mind is hardly an impossibility. Most importantly, I don't think you lot can actually beat me. If the three of you were equal in power to Graf Urtica, then I certainly would have to watch my step. But you three... pardon my rudeness. Don't waste your breath. Graf Urtica, why don't we both take a step back? What do you say?
Take a step back?
I dismantle these giant amplifiers and you continue working with me. That way, only Kryide has to die. Not a bad deal considering he only has a few days to live anyway, right?
In your dreams.
That truly is a shame. Due to unforeseen circumstances, you were forced to choose the path most ill-suited for you. If that is your heart's desire, then so be it. What a shame.
Shut up.
You'll regret this for the rest of your life.
I said shut up.
The time for talk is over. It seems we can only settle this with a fight. If I win, the self-appointed guardians of the Afterglow will have to behave themselves and keep their mouths shut so I can continue negotiating with Graf Urtica. If you win, then there is nothing more to say. A win is a win. take your wand out, Graf Vortica, or do you plan to have those two infected fight for you? Like I said, your provocations would get you anywhere.
Hibiscus, stay out of this. Today I swear I'll...
Think carefully about where we are and what's all around us. Unless you're able to do this without any musical arts, you'll drive all the inhabitants of Vyseheim insane before the disease ever comes. You're a quick thinker, Fräulein Hibiscus. Since you caught on so quick, I suppose there's no other choice but to take it outside. Let me get this out there first. Rid yourself the notion that escapes counts as victory.
Sorry, what?
Rid yourselves of the notion that escapes counts as victory. While I personally dislike roughing up innocent bystanders, I can't say the same for my underlings. You must not have a whole lot of confidence in yourself based on how many you brought with you. I'm so glad to hear your sharp wit once more. I'm also moved to tears. Are you feeling better now, Graf Vortica?
Of course, Dame Strollo.
Let's head outside and fight to our heart's content. There must be nobody for you to spar with back in Vortica. Should be lonely, right?
If I did, I wouldn't be playing with an old bag like you. After all, you've never even challenged your own brother for his title. You have to wait for him. You have to wait for him to die before you can move up. I'm guessing you've never bested him in a fight before.
Very good, very good. I'm starting to hate you more and more.
The feeling is mutual. Alright then, and let's go through the event. But first, alright, through the battle. But first, as per usual, we have a unique boss to battle on this stage. Dame Gertrude. As it says here, Gertrude Strollo, Landsfrau of Vyseheim, and a researcher of energy induction and redirection. Suffers from chronic insomnia and often goes without sleep. Slightly relatable. But anyway, this is the team, don't pay attention to it, and literally just put together a team that needs leveling trust. Plus the event units. Anyway. This is gonna be the stage. Enjoy the music, and I'll let it run on normal speed.
That skill effect at the end with the sinking deep tone was actually on point. That was amazing. Not gonna lie. Anyway, let us continue with the after story. Down in your dreams. Fancy that? You can still struggle. So, welcome to the Harry Potter version of the story. I'm not holding this one back, Damestrolo. You read me. Who knew you could bite off more than you could chew? Unripe. You're just relying on the voice of Terra. Your control of arts is still in its infancy. Huh. Did that get her? Huh. I never thought you'd be the one to best me, Graf Urtica. So you admit defeat? A loss is a loss, but does not admitting it make it my victory instead? Why are you unperturbed? Because, how exactly can you lay a finger on me? I'm the Lensfra of the city. It's night, you broke into a concert hall I administrate, and you attempted to tear down legitimate renovations ratified by my own person. You even injured me as I did my best to stop you. Graf Urtica, Rhode Islander, and you, Czerny. You should be the worried ones, isn't that right?
As despicable as ever, Gertrude.
Despicable? Is that how you treat your patron? You're back of over a decade? Czerny, I allowed you to do the... Jesus, what is wrong right now? I allowed you to use this concert hall. You're no more than a mere infected. Your position? I gave you that too. Your cherished Afterglow could only limp its way to the present day on my benevolence. Don't forget that.
How dare!
All of you kindly leave.
I wouldn't be so sure.
Graf Urtica, this title carries with it disgrace all throughout Leithanien. But it also means that wherever I go, the Empress's informants are sure to be. And what if they are? I told you, you're only making vain attempts to destroy my music hall. Even if their majesty's agents were to show themselves, they would arrest you by all rights, not me.
Beagler? Beagler!
You have to have witnessed this all now, right? Do you still intend to fold your arms and watch? I saw the Graf Urtica fall to breaking and entering a concert hall in the dead of night with a gang. Aside from that, I saw nothing. Did you not hear the plot? Do you mean Grafenstrolo's plot or the Graf Urtica's plot jointly schemed with her? Why you... I did in fact hear. However, even if I recorded your entire dialogue just now, that doesn't prove a thing. Evidence, Graf. Everything needs careful selected evidence. What proves Grafenstrolo intended to act against the Empresses? Proof. You can come to me at this moment and raise the matter of proof. Right, the voice of Terra. We discovered there was research into the voice of Terra in the sewers. What? Huh. Seems you're not off the ball after all, Graf Urtica. What research? I know nothing about this. Feigning stupidity at this point points passé, Grafenstrolo. You may not be directly linked to the notes and plans in that sewer laboratory, but we have our ways. With our leads there, it'll be a walk in the park to find your other little bases. You are presently suspected of launching research into the Voice of Terra, forbidden under their Majesty's decree. I want you to come with me. Wait, because she was researching the voice and nothing else? Let me reiterate to you again, Graf Vortica, and the rest of you. As long as you have no clear evidence, prove your foul product is going to blow up like you say it does. Every accusation you throw at her turns into slander, nothing else. Let me take a look at those Voice of Terra research files. I can give you exhaustive evidence. Very sorry, but that's classified Leithanien information. I can't hand it over to a foreign organization. You're just wishing it out of existence. There's a lot in these lands that doesn't go the way you want it, Fräulein. But let it go, Hibiscus. He's made his point very clear. Our discoveries aren't enough to convince Grafin Strollo. And he only showed himself because he found other evidence to do so. I should even be thanking you for deigning to show up in the wake of my hissy fit. Isn't that right, Beagler, my dear spy? I'll be honest, if I had to compare you and Grafin Strollo as nobles, I'd say you win in my books, Graf Vortica. And you, Herr Czerny. We have Grafin Strollo contained now, even if whatever your friends are worried about is real. Either way, the concert's safe. Of course, I still recommend you cancel it. Safest for settling this. I thought the concert tomorrow had already been forbidden. Whatever you hold it remains up to you. Okay, Grafin Strollo, I believe your loyalty to the Empresses. I'd like you to take you for breakfast. You wouldn't refuse my invitation, would you? Huh. Breakfast in these early hours? Very well. Graf Vortica, you will regret betraying me. I'll regret many a thing, but that is the one matter I never will. Well, we've just let them go.
Gertrude. You still had a word waiting for her? If profanity counts for a word.
Kryide still hasn't woken. Leave him with me. I'll set off straight away and bring him to the Rhode Island landship.
You're taking him away?
I am. He'll only get the proper treatment at Rhode Island.
I won't allow it.
Why?
Even if you can pacify his condition, what will you do about the Voice of Terra? I don't doubt your medical prowess, but is that something you can truly solve?
I can't promise, but we've got no other choice now. Don't tell me you still hope Gertrude will help you get rid of it through ensemble.
I can only hope.
You're...
How long will it take from Vyseheim to your landship, I ask you? You won't say, because you know Kryide isn't likely to make it there.
But even if what Gertrude says is true, are you really going to sacrifice yourself to do this?
As long as I can do it, why shouldn't I? Hibiscus stares blank for a spell. The look in his eyes now compared to when she first met his young man, the difference is like black and white. He's serious, she thinks.
Fine. Even if I help you to the best of my ability, we know too little about the Voice of Terra, and what we do know was all told to us by the Countess. We're sifting through fact and fiction.
Looks like I made it.
Sir, you...
If you need more info about the Voice of Terra, I have this project plan right here.
Sir, did you...
You pulled the same thing as Beagler. I did. You probably imagined, but Kryide is a Finn who slipped through the program's net back in the day. How could the Empresses let such a wild card wander freely, you know? But you've been roaming together for more than a decade. And that's why no one ever suspected it.
But didn't Beagler say it was classified?
Which is why I filched it from where he kept it. If I can save Kryide, then the hell does it matter if anyone's shown this damned plan. And it's a long overdue damning, if you ask me.
Calm down, you're still very weak.
Let me see the plan of yours, Hibiscus. Let me see the plan papers, Hibiscus. You take this old fellow somewhere to rest.
I will. Sir, does he know?
I never told him, but he's very smart. I'm sure he has a vague guess.
This is too cruel to him.
Cruel. Heh. Fräulein, do you know how I became an infected?
No.
Surely you've heard how in the age before the Empress's rule, Leithanien had explored classical originium arts to heighten hardly surpassable.
Yes.
So do you know the price Leithanien paid to reach those heights?
Countless human sacrifices, among which were huge numbers of infected.
Yes, infected. During that period, some Kurfürsten were even handing over infected to a regular quota, and they treated this as a custom. But infected are people too. It's not like they'd let their lives be thrown away. So, can you guess what happened in the end?
You don't mean...
It looks like you have. Just slash your arm with Originium, and now you qualify as an infected too. That's how mine came about. Melody. It's melody. The voices of the mundane are the melodies the Witch King left behind. I can't believe this. No, this is the only way it makes sense. He wasn't just Leithanien's mightiest caster. The Witch King was also Leithanien's most feared musician. His mastery of music was at the epitome. Some even said his insight into music was of the same grade as his Originium arts research. But rhythm, tonality, texture, he threw those raw elements that make up the beauty of music to the hounds. Every piece of his left in this world is filled with murder and devastation. His opuses have long been forbidden pieces in Leithanien. If the voice of Terra is a string of melodies left by the Witch King, then the voice is without a doubt a remnant opus of his, and you are its very extents. We are not his opus. You shouldn't deceive yourself. Moreover, if this is the case, you have a solution? I needed to perform the ensemble that repelled those Originium slugs again. When you did that, you grasped the voices inside yourselves, didn't you? Ensemble? Right now? Do you comprehend the situation we're in here? I do, and I know it better than you do. But...
let's hear Herr Czerny out, Ebenholz.
Kryide, are you alright? Did you come here alone?
Adante brought me over.
But you can't double the voice of Terra's melody again like you did before. It did something wrong to you last time.
I don't want to leave any regrets. Alright, Herr Czerny, what did you think of?
If the voice can be said to be a string of melodies, then whether those remnants who used you for their experiment, or Gertrude, Their aim has to be to conduct the Originium arts contained within that melody, or should I say, the melody that flows within this Originium arts. Which is to say, their exploration of the voice is entirely to unearth the supposed secrets within. In plain words, they're trying to make the voice more clear, more beautiful. Thus, there is one thing I can very definitely tell you. There is no method that can transfer the voice anywhere in these plans. I'm not surprised anymore. But that's not because doing so would be too difficult. Precisely the opposite. It's because, in their eyes, it would be a waste of what they have. Because every melody the Witch King left behind is different. Each comes from its own period and contains its own completely separate emotions and ideas. What sense can there be in putting two entirely different songs together? Just as what you perform together, the further you pursue it, the more disastrous the effects become. Even the Originium slugs fled because they felt your performance to be far too ear-bleeding.
I presume they've done similar transfer experiments before and realized how bad the results were. Then
they did. However, even if two pieces are diametrically opposed, a sufficient lead-in can still be enough to accomplish the transition. Therefore, I want you to perform my Morgen und Abend, upon which I want you to dig your own selves out from within the piece, just as you did that evening. I have to feel the melody, the voice of Terra left within you, and then I will write you a new song.
Wait, no matter what, you need something to hold the voice so you can transfer it. And the experiment results said all attempts to implant two voices in one person failed. I'll be the vessel. Is that what you mean?
Don't trust the little determination you have to be enough for self-sacrifice, boy. I will try with all my might, through performance, to drag the voices from the both of you. If I cannot, I will personally serve as this receptacle, if I am able to.
Why would you go so far for us?
If I remember correctly, my Morgen und Abend was your turning point in learning flute.
And so what?
So, it's likely you heard of how I came to write it. That Gertrude woman had to turn it into a blasted selling point for me, though I never wanted for anyone else to know.
You lost your dearest, closest friend, and you wrote the piece in your grief.
Grief. That description was far off the mark. You should be using the term indignation. That was the first time I came to find that life would not unfold how I imagined it, and the first time I knew what music meant to me. My rebellion against a fixed fate.
Turning ordinary civilians into infected. That's too cruel.
I have no idea how many times I've cursed the Witch King in those days, but perhaps someone heard my tirades. However, before they could send me to the laboratories, their majesties had overthrown the Witch King. I was saved. And that's why I swore to dedicate the rest of my life to their majesties' cause.
And so you became a spy?
Correct. I can't tell you what I did when I was an agent, and you don't need to know. All you need to know is that I was the agent who found the Witch King's remains that had been researching the voice of Terra. By the time we found them, they had already experimented on Kryide and failed. It's why his body is the way it is now.
You didn't plan to save him, right?
How do you know?
From what I know, when the Twin Empresses ascended to the throne, they issued an edict that forbade all Witch King-era research, and the Voice of Terra research obviously fell into that category. But if the Voice of Terra is really that amazing, I can't imagine that not a single person has turned his attention to it in the 20 years since the Witch King was overthrown. What's more, the Witch King left his mark within, the Witch King weaved his power into the melody. The Witch King himself is the core of these ideas. Deep down, their pursuit of the voice of Terra might actually be nothing more than worshipping the Witch King himself. And given the way that Mr. Beagler does things, I'd say a spy's principles lie with serving the Twin Empresses. In other words, to spies like you, the voice of Terra doesn't further the Twin Empresses' interests in any way.
Junge Frau, until I saw how reckless you were, I took you for a fool. And now it seems you just didn't know how to put your wits to use. You're goddamn right. Here, I brought the research plan along. There's no point in hiding any of this anymore. The voice of Terra is unique. It's undoubtedly the Witch King's lingering echoes in the world, and there is definitely some power hidden within. But the Witch King's fervent followers truly believe that the Witch King left behind his avatar within it. The power the voice of Terra holds is too unique. It will never see widespread use. At the very least, the current court casters see the research on the voice of Terra as a futile and pointless pursuit. And that's why the handling of Abendrot and Kryide became a problem.
Was Abendrot chosen because he was considered safer?
Yes, we had to announce the plan's failure, and Abendrot was naturally the best choice as there was nothing wrong with his body. On the contrary, as there were already problems with Kryde's body, he had no choice. Death awaited him.
But he finally got away from the Witch King's remains, and yet he had to die. That's too cruel.
Perhaps in your eyes our methods are inhumane. But once you've witnessed countless tragedies, especially ones caused by those who are not inhumane, you'll come to realize that you can't let your feelings get in the way of everything. You probably think Beagler is a pretty heartless man, don't you?
Yeah, I do think so.
But what you don't know is he's lived in the Afterglow and spent time with its residents day after day for more than a dozen years. His feelings for this place is no less genuine than anyone else. There's no one who wants to skin Gertrude alive more than him, but he can't. Do you think you're the angriest person to ever talk to him?
Mr. Beagler, he...
Besides, Kryde's condition endangers those around him too. He has no way to get too close to anyone, and his past destined him to never live the life of a normal man. He truly didn't have a choice.
But you let your feelings get in the way with him. You offered him a choice other than death.
Is that really a choice? He had to wander the world with an old man who's half dead. He learned how to play the cello, and yet he rarely had a chance to even touch one. He can't make friends, he can't even get too close with anyone. Can you really call that a proper life?
But he lived.
Perhaps. Having seen how he trembled back then, I can still feel a sharp pain in my arms, even now. The Witch King. The Witch King. Kryide, those who got infected inadvertently, and those who were forcefully infected. The wounds that the Witch King left on Leithanien have yet to heal, but now there are those who thirst for his return, and there are even nobles who are sheltering his remnants and facilitating their research. Oh, how I dread. I dread I won't live to see the day they all meet justice.
You will live.
No need to comfort me, junge Frau. I've lived with him for all these years. It's a miracle that I'm still alive today. He is like a real grandson to me. I brought him here because I was actually thinking of introducing him to Beagler and setting him up with a job as an agent. That way, I would at least get to die knowing he's in good hands. But now it doesn't really. It doesn't really. Oh, right. This sentence. I think there is a typo in here or a word missing, and I can't really tell fully what's missing, but it just says it doesn't really to me so much anymore. It doesn't really mean too much to me. Whatever. Continuing. I always thought it was my fate to give my life to their majesties as an agent, but it seems that's not really all there is.
Sir.
Crash. A tremendous noise comes from inside. Go, let us all grandpa sit here a little longer. Go help them.
If you don't feel well, be sure to call my name.
The voice of Terra did not have a name at first. The melody was abandoned by the Witch King after all. It was a melody improvised by him on the spur of the moment and transcribed by his court musicians. If the Witch King's complete pieces are howls from a deep abyss, then these fragments are indeed still melodies of the mortal realm. And thus these fragments were named the Voice of Terra. Be that as it may, the Witch King's power is still immensely terrifying. Ebenholz, I may have asked you to show your purest form in music, but now I want you to think back to your life the past 24 or so years. Let your resentfulness pour out. Music is a portraiture of your life. It's the steps you take, the eyes you peer into the world with. Don't let your emotions cloud you, but don't betray your emotions either. Explore, vent, and drag your melody out from the deepest parts of your soul. I found it. Right, that's it. That's exactly what I want. That's the melody that was carved into your brain. It's the melody of destruction, and it is a ravaging one. And you, Kryide, I need the opposite from you. I need you to constrain yourself. You are too unreserved. You encompass everything that you've experienced. Do you know that your kindness is your greatest weakness? Are you reconciling? Why reconciling? Why should you reconcile? Who has the right to ask you to reconcile? Everyone thinks you deserve better. The idea has crossed your mind too, hasn't it? You still aren't willing to change the way you think, huh? Fine. This is enough. I can feel your melody too. A void that swallows everything whole. Bear with it. The energies of the two widely different Originiumards begin to entangle with one another inside the room as anguished expressions start to appear on the two young men's faces. Journey knows it is time for him to join in. Keep playing. Do not fret. If you feel something wrong with your body, stop immediately. But if you do feel something's off, and you're not the one to blame, then leave it to me. Journey sits in front of the piano, takes a deep breath, and starts playing as well. However, when he attempts to sort out the two totally different surges of energy, he realizes just how much he overestimated his abilities. The melody is strong, full of anger, terrifying, solemn, bloody. Above all, it's a melody that fully immerses its listeners. One moment, he's suddenly filled with hatred towards the Witch King. The next second, he has a heartfelt admiration for him. One moment, he feels as though he is a newborn child, but he immediately feels the passage of time and its effects on his body. The very next second, he is as old as the hills. He forces himself to keep his appearance intact with what little sanity he has left, but he feels as though he is walking in a boundless desert. The sandstorm is too powerful, and he cannot open his eyes. He tries his best to shake the sand off. Then, as he sees a towering wall that reaches even the sky, there is nothing on the wall. No pain, no anger, and no death. It's a simple, unadorned wall. At that very moment, he finally realizes that is a wall he will never be able to overcome. His mind is instantly filled with fear. Journey coughs violently, sending blood gushing out of his mouth. His cough is so intense that he tries to get up for a drink of water, only for him to stagger and knock down the music stand next to him. Hey, are you alright? Herr Czerny?
I heard something just now. What happened?
A trifle, nothing more. No, I see. It's not that no one has ever attempted to do what I did. It's just that people who tried are all dead.
You're laughing? Mr. Czerny, you're bleeding out of your mouth. Let me wipe that for you.
How did you two feel just now?
When we drew out the voice of Terra, it felt very much like I was getting torn apart. But after you joined in, it did feel like a lot of the pressure faded.
At the very least, this proves that my idea is workable.
But you're already...
I coughed up some blood, that's all. I know my own body better than anyone. Let's continue. Journey sits back on his bench. He closes his eyes and begins to ponder a question. Who is Czerny? He answers himself. Czerny is a coward. He once hid underneath the wings of his dear friend and teacher, thinking that he could live his whole life through music. Yet the death of his dear friend, the torments of Oripathy, and poverty all work together to make him realize that he is but an ordinary man. You will die. I've lived this long because Gertrude still thinks I have value, and so she paid for my medication and kept me alive for a few years longer than most other infected. But if I can't finish this piece today, I might as well be dead. If you don't want me to die a meaningless death, pick up your flute. He answers. Czerny is a man who sees music as everything. Before he was famous, the people of the Afterglow showed nothing but grief and sorrow whenever he went outside. They had no appreciation for the beauty of music because they didn't know whether they would live to see the next day. To make ends meet, he had no choice but to accept Gertrude's suggestion and become a spectacle for the nobles in the music halls left behind by the Witch King, like some kind of rare animal. Life was way too complicated, and he wanted to go back inside his house. At all those times, it was always music that kept him from running. He has more than music, but it is with music that he expresses everything about him. Kryide, your performance is too weak. But don't worry about me, you don't have that right. This is about your survival, not mine. Do not ever think it is a virtue to sacrifice yourself. Your sacrifice is also a burden. Scream, vent, and fight for the reward that should have been yours.
I understand.
Finally, he answers. Czerny is a man who resists fate. Is music how he resists his fate then? No, music is his struggle, his howl, and his song. He is struggling for his friend who passed away before fulfilling her musical ideals. He is howling for those who cannot speak. He is singing for those who were born into suffering yet still have joy within their hearts. In that case, is he performing in someone else's stead? No, he knows how his friend was unwilling to die. He walked these streets where those who cannot speak gather, and he brought music to those who are trying to seek joy despite their sufferings. Once again, he stands in front of that high hill, the Witch King. High wall, pardon. He knows he can never overcome this wall. But this time, he instead reminisces about the joy of discussing music with his dear friend. He remembers the love and respect he receives from the Afterglow's residents, and he remembers the morning sun he sees at the beginning of each day. And that is why he says, "Right now, I am my own opponent."
Mr. Czerny, you're coughing up blood again. He's not listening to me at all. Let's go get some rest, Abendrot.
But
We don't need to be here anymore. What we need to do is rest up and wait for Herr Czerny to finish his new piece.
Hibiscus, take care of him.
At the very least, I won't let him collapse before me. Now go.
Czerny's enemy is not the Witch King. Even though the Witch King's offenses were heinous, profuse, even though he disdains that monarch, he is still forced to concede that music itself stands unrelated to good or evil. His opponent is himself at this very moment. He no longer tries to scale the wall so despairingly high. He begins to perform. Beneath his feet appears a platform. It brings him up in unbroken ascent, up through the clouds. Though still no end to the wall can be seen, he no longer cares. Even though he can feel the turbulent power dash about his body, and he cannot hold back further coughs of blood. Hibiscus, to one side, is even given the illusion she can almost see Czerny's life flying by in accelerando, but at the same time, the score he writes rages. Take it all, take everything off him. Today marks the day of Czerny's death. But Czerny's music will never die. And day breaks. It's complete.
That's such a relief. You're...
The musician strains to lift himself, but his upper body crashes against the piano, and he leaves a discordant coda in the shining dawn. Alright, and here we go. Stage 8, titled Schicksals. His vague awareness that these hands are clutched at his own throat. So, let's begin with the before story.
Break a leg. I'll be cheering for you.
But even though I've been practicing for this day, I'm still not that confident. Then there's that prophecy too, saying something about an ensemble. What if it's me?
Come on, you've got this. What's there to be scared of? All those who were afflicted last night have already been treated, so I'm sure we'll be fine today.
Just a quick interjection. Please keep watching this man right now, and literally the man who will appear after him as the character portraits will keep swapping places. Just trust me on this one. It's hilarious, jarring, and very creepy to think about.
This is actually the first time I've had to sit with so many infected. Hopefully this concert is worth my while. Is Herr Czerny here yet?
Oh my god, when you look at it, it looks like it's the two of them are just morphing. Oh.
According to the organizer, he was also affected by last night's Originium Slug incident, but he did not cancel his scheduled appearance today. Oh, that's good. Damen und Herren, please take your seats. Herr Czerny will be here shortly. You speak the truth, yes? You'd better not wait until after we're inside the hall to close the doors and announce that he can't make it. I assure you that would never happen. Herr Czerny is only experiencing a mild seasonal malaise and will arrive at Afterglow Hall soon. Mild malaise, my ass. That sly bastard. I knew the files could have just up and disappeared. I can deal with him later. The files aren't that big of a deal anyway, not when compared to the actual research on the Voice of Terra. Is he going to the concert hall? Forget it. He can knock himself out.
By the looks of things, espionage is difficult work.
You should probably be worrying about yourself rather than about me, Gräfin Strollo. Harboring the Witch King's remains is your own demence, and propping up research on the Voice of Terra are serious crimes.
By the way, my good spy, how did my father and brother die according to your records?
Let's stay on topic.
They are closely related to this topic.
15 years ago, your father provided cover for research on the Voice of Terra. After we found out, he was about to spill the beans on the man behind him, but was silenced. Had you known, it would be reasonable to assume you'd act on the knowledge.
You think I'm trying to cover this up? My views towards my father have also changed over time. As a child, I felt like my father was the most terrifying person in the world. His will was absolute, and nobody could change his mind. I liked running and jumping about, so my father would lock me up in my room. I liked to talk during mealtime, so my father would take away my dinner and make me talk to the wall for an hour. Later, as I got older, my awe towards my father continued to grow unabated. I personally saw the way the lesser nobles kissed his feet, and the disdain with which he regarded them. Even the Witch King's envoys had no choice but to speak softly when they approached the Strollo Spire, a far cry from their overbearing airs while on the ground. That was the Lord of House Strollo, our Landsherr, a Kurfürst, and once the most revered of all houses. But everything changed when the Witch King fell. Let me be upfront, you're currently in very bad shape. As a doctor, I should be forbidding you from playing the concert.
But it doesn't look like you're trying to stop me.
I don't want the music that you burned your life away for to die in the dust.
Seems like you're finally learning to be flexible.
No, but I've come to realize that at times certain goals must be prioritized over others. I often found it ridiculous that my father was stupid enough to embrace the Witch King's rule. He was so staggeringly stupid that he didn't even bother concealing his opinions. Under his leadership, the Strollo family quickly lost the support of the Kurfürsten. Our house also lost control over 2 nomadic cities and was forced to retreat to Vyseheim, near the homeland of the Witch King Urtica. Did Graf Strollo, who lorded over Vyseheim, foolishly believe that he didn't belong there?
So your father, discontent with the status quo, began to commune with the remnants of the Witch King.
Huh. That's what I thought at the time, but you aren't as naive as I was back then, my dear spy. Your agent should know far better than I. Old Strollo was messing around with the Witch King's remains since the very beginning, wasn't he? Oh, right, you still haven't answered my question. By your accounts, how did my brother die?
Food poisoning. That is the official report and our conclusion.
Food poisoning? Huh. Alright then. Tell me this, just how much do you know about my father? In exchange, I can tell you how my brother really died.
We don't actually use the term Witch King's remains because it's too vague. Some of the bastards who invoke the Witch King do so because they worship his power, while others covet the political capital he gained during his reign. Your father was undoubtedly the latter. And behind this second group is an extensive sprawling net. Your father was just one small branch of it. Also, I hope you don't forget, Gräfin Strollo, that this is an interrogation, not a negotiation. The only reason I'm answering any of your questions is because we were unable to determine your brother's cause of death.
Look, it's Herr Czerny and the doctor. Herr Czerny, are you alright?
I'm fine.
We heard you were going to perform in an all-new piece today.
That's right. Even though not everyone will get to hear it because of the concert hall's limited seating, I will come back and perform for everyone again.
That's great news. Don't push yourself, Mr. Czerny.
The road from Czerny's house to Afterglow Hall is not long, but the man's steps are extremely sluggish. Hibiscus isn't sure if she can even play the piano. Isn't sure if he can even play the piano in this state. Oripathy is a real disease, not some ethereal thing that can be defeated through willpower alone. But at this moment, she chooses to place her faith in the musician. Hibiscus can feel Czerny exerting every fiber of his being just to stay upright. All she can do is support him, keeping him from losing his balance under his exertion. The rest is his battle alone. I've got it. I've got it. The name for the new piece. I'll call it...
Hold on.
What's the matter?
Shouldn't those two be the first to know?
You've got a point.
My good spy, come here and behold the great hero of the Afterglow, our illustrious composer, Herr Czerny. I don't know how long you've been hiding in Vyseheim, but even you must be quite familiar with him.
It's really something. A city like this, run by a house like yours, could produce such an outstanding musician.
You seem to have a high regard for Herr Czerny. It makes sense. Who could dislike a pure-spirited musician? Even I've always liked him. Oh, but don't get the wrong idea. It's not that kind of like. And even if it was, it never worked out between us. Surely you've heard about the story about him and his old friend.
I'm quite thankful that a woman named Gertrude is nowhere to be found in that story.
Huh. Give me a break. You should already know. The one who brought his music and his story to the world was me. Without me, he would have died in a ditch somewhere long ago.
So you used the infected maestro born in an infected ghetto trope as a gimmick and had him dance like a jester for the nobles who deigned to descend here?
It seems the city is nearer and dearer to your heart than I imagined, my dear good spy. To be honest, my original plan was hardly this compassionate. For the sake of reviving the House of Strollo, what is the dignity of a single musician? However, as a Leithanien noble, music was a compulsory part of my upbringing. I must admit that even I have been awestruck by his music. Listen, the performance has already begun. The difference between these performances and his is like heaven and earth.
You've been avoiding the question for some time now. What are you trying to accomplish?
Oh my, would you look at that? I just can't shut my mouth when it comes to Czerny. Everyone around me thinks I hate him, and everyone around him knows that he hates me. This unfortunate misunderstanding has robbed me of a conversation partner. But let's not talk about me anymore. Back to my brother. The topic really isn't as interesting as Czerny, though. But it's only natural for his death to remain a mystery to you. It was my work after all.
Phew. How are you feeling?
I think we've pretty much been in sync with each other. Even though he composed this piece for the two of us, it clearly has his style all over it. I don't think it's inferior to Morgan on Abend in any way. And he only spent a single night on this. What an incredible man.
Composing is the release of a long build-up. I think he simply found the right opportunity for it. What are you staring at?
I had no idea you knew how to give a compliment.
It's not as if I've downplayed his musical accomplishments. My only hope is that he will make it to the concert.
He'll be here. Composing a piece of music is only the first step. Only through turning the score into actual music can the piece truly be completed. News has already gotten out that he'll be changing the finale. He's not going to give up now.
I hope so.
Oh, right, Abendrot. Do you think this suit looks good on me? I've never worn anything this expensive before, so I don't know if I might have messed something up.
It looks very good.
Thank goodness. Oh, there's one other thing.
Why are you so unusually chatty today?
Is that to say I have a normal level of chatty under normal circumstances?
Yes, something like that.
Just deal with it, and who knows, this might be the last time we ever play together.
Why would you think that?
Why wouldn't I? After this is over, you'll return to being Graf Urtica, and I will continue to wonder. Even though our meeting was somewhat engineered by the Gräfin, it was still just a coincidence at first, wasn't it?
But
we're friends now. I know that's what you were going to say.
Right.
Sometimes even friends have to go their separate ways. Maybe this time we won't see each other for a long, long time. But do you remember what I said? We can always give gifts to remember each other by.
I'll give you one of my dice then.
Aren't those your weapons? Do they still work if you're missing one?
To be honest, I'm not entirely sure.
Let's not worry about it then. I think a coin with a a hole drilled through it works best, just like I said before.
What about you then? What are you going to give me?
I'm still thinking.
Take your time. As long as things go well today, that's something we'll have plenty of.
Right, we still have plenty of time.
Enough of your jokes, Gertrude Strollo. Do you have any idea what you just said?
I said I was the one who killed my brother.
You've gone mad.
Mad? No, think about it carefully, my good spy. Your once exalted father falls from grace, funding some shady research in secret. He tries to blow hot and cold, his plans are exposed, and he ultimately meets an untimely end. Afterwards, your brother is groomed by them, terrified into obedience. But he is too incompetent. He can't do a single thing right. He slips up once and almost exposes the ones pulling his strings. Instead of watching him suffer in torment at the hands of those who always despised him, isn't it better to use him as a stepping stone so you can succeed him?
Who are they? Who are the ones pulling his strings?
Oh, I would like to know that more than anyone. Far more than you would. If you had that information, I would sit down and strike a deal with you, here and now. I might even go down into the streets myself to yell about how I have information on the Witch King's remains. Tainted witness, if I recall, this saying has grown quite popular in Columbia.
I've met no shortage of idiots who thought they could play ball with us, Gräfin Strollo. Didn't end well for any of them.
Herr Czerny, are you alright?
I want to say yes, but that would be a lie.
If you really can't handle it, then...
Abendrot, don't forget those decisions, this whole thing. Don't forget whose decision this whole thing was.
If that's what you want, then I will give it my all. The two of us have already mastered the piece you wrote. If you, the composer, can't perform on par due to health problems, then that's entirely on you.
Well spoken. The melody is already etched into my head. All you two have to do is follow me.
You talk a big game. Alright, now that Mr. Czerny is here, let's hurry up and get ready to go on stage. Whether for our own sake or for our audience, we've all got to put our best foot forward.
Kryide, is it just me or do you seem unusually excited today?
Do I? That might be because, for the first time, I'm experiencing what it means to be alive.
I don't get you at all. Herr Czerny, you're up.
Oh, right, there's one other thing, Herr Czerny.
What is this piece called? You still haven't given it a name. I came up with it on the way here. I will name it Licht und Schatten. Light and Shadow. Next up, Czerny, Abendrot, and Kryide will ferry you away to tonight's finale. As you may already know, this piece is Herr Czerny's new composition, debuting tonight for the very first time. Its title is Trio for Flute, Cello, and Piano in B-flat minor, Licht und Schatten. The three bow to the audience, and the concert goers in the auditorium respond with warm applause. The music begins. After just a few short measures, the entire audience, from the auditorium to the balcony, sits up straight in their seats, those who previously wore expressions of expectation and suspicion alike. No whispers, no coughs, not even the sound of clothes rubbing together. Not a single soul wishes to disturb this fleeting, unadulterated beauty. Also, I want to point out, the music playing right now is supposed to be the music that the three of them are playing, and it is the very menu music for this very side story. Small beads of sweat begin to emerge on Czerny's forehead, but this does not indicate any problems with the trio outside of their music. It's just that the power he is required to guide and control is too precise.
They've begun their performance. Czerny, I just knew you wouldn't disappoint me. You will find a way to help them. Listen, this new piece. How could the audience possibly comprehend that this opening came straight from the Witch King? Of course they cannot comprehend, because this piece already belongs to you. Ah, this melody. It all makes sense now. You intend to rip the voice of Terra out of both of them. Bold. However, what will you do after that? Are you going to become the new vessel?
In Bigler's eyes, Gertrude has gone completely insane. She mumbles to herself in the direction of the concert hall, as if conversing with a dear friend.
My dear spy, would you like to hear my performance?
Gertrude seems to be addressing Bigler, but is also muttering to herself at the same time. As she speaks, she walks towards the harp sitting in the corner of the room. My patience is running out, Griffinstrollo.
I bought this house for a reason. It sits outside the Afterglow, but you can still hear the music coming from the concert hall clearly. A wonderful location, isn't it? I love listening to the music that passes through here. This way, he doesn't have to see me, and I don't have to see him.
She begins to play as she speaks. Griffinstrollo, the arts units in this building have already been disabled. And even if they were, don't think your arts will work on me. Men easily swayed by music don't make good spies.
I only want to play the harp, my good spy. Czerny hates me. He hates me for not treating music with purity. He hates me for using it as a tool. I once sought to defend myself and explain it away, but I later came to realize I might actually be exactly the woman he says I am. Even if he carved my heart out, I would never be able to treat music with purity. Tell me, how could one who has committed fratricide, a woman who for over 10 years has been hell-bent on exacting revenge on those puppet masters, possibly achieve anything close to purity?
As much as Bigler doesn't want to admit it, Gertrude's performance is excellent, not at all appalling in comparison to the echoes drifting in from beyond the window. Without a doubt, this is the level that all outstanding Leithanien nobles should aspire to. But the words that come out of Gertrude's mouth make him shudder. Wait, revenge?
You're a clever man. You should have guessed that my tragic failure last night was not the result of impetuousness. But you don't know what I'm hiding. You believe I've exhausted my plans, which is the only reason you're here chatting with me. The truth is, I do want to buy time, but some words have been festering in my head for far too long, which is why I can't help but ramble on. I do hope you pardon my rudeness. Furthermore, I must apologize that you'll be dying here with me.
What the hell are you doing? It truly is an eye-opening piece of music, or so it was at the beginning. Just as the title implies, the music waves a shattered illusion from the very beginning, making one's heart sink to the bottom of a valley as if dark clouds are bloating out the sun. However, the tune changes almost immediately, the sonorous cello uplifting the flute's clarity, with the piano behind them both to break through the layers of gloom, singing a paean to the joy of glimpsing the light of day. Oh, light. This is the singular thought in everyone's head. They immediately understand the Licht in Licht und Schatten. They begin to look forward to the Schatten. However, a feeling of unease begins to set in to some members of the audience, because they see the expressions of suffering creeping across the faces of the three performers, as if something is gnawing away at them from within.
Beautiful. An exemplary musician devoting his life to fighting the power left behind by the Witch King. Just as he is about to pull his doomed battle back to a stalemate, he loses not to the Witch King or to himself, but to the obsessions of an old acquaintance.
Hey, what are you going about?
Do you hear the harp's voice?
Huh? A harp? Why would there be a harp? Isn't this supposed to be a trio?
Philistine, listen to the sound coming from that small building in the distance. The shrill laughter erupting from the depths of despair is equally beautiful. As for you, my former student, while I was teaching you to speak using the violin, I heard the motive of your fate. What a cruel melody it was. But I never expected that you could develop it into such a brilliant opus. I salute all of you, people I may or may not know. I shall listen, for that is the only way I know how to pay my respects. I was the one who restarted the Voice of Terra program, my good spy.
You alone?
First, the Voice of Terra is exceedingly rare, and after that ordeal, you ultimately took control of 2 of them. Second, past research has proven that an individual who isn't blood related to the Witch King cannot possibly withstand this type of experimentation. In other words, even after you people tore apart that plan, it was not completely abandoned, merely shelved. In the end, the Voice of Terra program originates from the worship of the Witch King. But how many are there who, from the depths of their hearts, can truly worship fear itself? They only wanted a weapon to overthrow the Twin Empresses, just as the Twin Empresses overthrew the Witch King. As for me, after I realized that my brother's incompetence would bring ruin to our entire house, I had no choice but to act. Nevertheless, I still never found a way to show my value to those shadowy worshippers. Music, arts, money, authority, even my body, nothing worked. Finally, I found these dust-covered plans in a pile of my father's old writings. The reboot of the program brought a fresh breath of opportunity for me. They began to think that I might amount to something. But what they didn't know is I've already had enough. I didn't want to be at their beck and call anymore. So I set this plan into motion, not for the sake of overthrowing anyone, unfortunately. I just want them to get a taste of what it's like to suffer. I sucked up to them and invited them to come appreciate the fruits of my research. If you go take a walk around the concert hall now, you might find proof of some things you've long suspected.
Everything from the human experimentation facility in the sewers to the dossier on the Voice of Terra program. Did you deliberately allow me and Abendrot to find them?
Those were only meant for the eyes of you spies. I never expected Graf Urtica to go looking for you people.
And you tipped your hand to keep them from... And you tipped your head to keep them from discovering what you had really done to the concert hall.
Of course. The amplifiers are nothing more than a small distraction. With those amplifiers, all of the Afterglow would have been made to suffer. With the amplifiers dismantled, the Afterglow is indeed spared, but the same cannot be said for those inside the concert hall. The remodeling of the concert hall began after my research into the Voice of Terra had progressed to its next phase. Journey is trying to use his own composition to draw the Voice of Terra out of the boys. But what I'm trying to do is much simpler. The moment they try to pull out the voice, they will realize that nothing is in their control. I have tampered with the melody and resonance of the Voice of Terra. Anyone who tries to become a new vessel, regardless of who it might be, will have to endure turmoil and chaos 100 times greater. The voice, unable to find a suitable vessel, will collapse into an all-consuming void within the concert hall, built by the Witch King himself, swallowing everyone within. Of course, I am part of this performance, and I equally have no hope of escape. As for you, my unfortunate spy, if you don't take this chance to escape, then you can only bemoan your ill fortune. My, what a fierce look you have in your eyes. I know what you want to do. But my apologies, I can no longer extricate myself from this song. Killing me would be no different from killing the 3 men on that stage. All it'll do is bring about those deaths a little faster.
Journey desperately wants to stop the performance, but he cannot do it. The moment he begins to reel in the Voice of Terra, he feels a single strand of abnormality, but in that solitary moment, it is already too late. The concert hall begins to absorb and reflect their performance like a massive arts unit. Resonance. True resonance. He immediately realizes that Gertrude's alterations were far greater than just some simple amplifiers. The concert hall itself has become a weapon. Why did you do this, Gertrude?
Herr Czerny, if you continue on like this...
Don't stop. The Voice of Terra has already destabilized due to the interference of the concert hall. If we stop now, not only will both of you, but everyone in the venue will die along with you when Voice rampages out of control after losing its vessels. But...
Also, I want to point out for a small little duration here, while Abendrot is talking to us, the readers, or rather we can read what he's trying to say. He is playing the flute. They're pretty much just reading out what he's trying to tell them.
They all know that this piece begins with Abendrot's Voice of Terra and ends with Kryde's. Even if they don't stop, Kryde's voice will be pulled from his body by the piece's conclusion, and the inevitable will still transpire. This is a dead end. There's an atmosphere of uneasiness, and they're holding back on their arts. What in blazes is going on?
Excuse me.
You're the one from Rhode Island.
Hurry and start evacuating the concert hall.
Huh?
Something's bad about to happen. If we don't hurry, it's going to be a disaster.
Is this the product of Gertrude's research? Fascinating.
What do you think about this?
Not bad for a minor Griffin, as far as I'm concerned. Let's have her pay us a visit afterwards.
Indeed.
How were you so sure that they'd use the concert hall today?
My good spy, you're mistaken about one thing. I can't say for sure what is about to unfold. What I can say for sure is, as long as they're still in that concert hall trying to save Kryide, then I've won. Kryde's disease is my final bargaining chip. If they can somehow resolve that, then I've lost. This is the situation.
What the hell is this? This plan. can hardly even be called a plan.
That's because my plan was a failure from the very beginning. You think I'm sitting here chatting with you because I have an elaborate backup plan? Would that make any sense? If not for Cherny's unwillingness to cooperate with me, if not for the fact that even the insignificant little Graf Urtica insists on rebelling against his trifling worthless fate, why would I even bet on this method? Cherny will never realize how fortunate he is that he was born with enough talent to be recognized, that I was willing to provide him a stage. All he had to do was be a little nicer to me, and I would have elevated his music to the loftiest heights, perhaps even before their majesties. But he refused to do even that. And that Graf Urtica, he deemed himself a vase sitting on display in his demence. As if a bit of ridicule and insult is the greatest humiliation one can suffer in life. But look at me, I've endured the manipulation of the puppet masters of this city for 15 years. 15 long years! If I can't produce results, I will be silenced. By what right are they allowed to live while I am not? I don't care about the Witch King. I don't care about the Twin Empresses. I've only ever wanted to survive. From the beginning, all I wanted was to live on.
After coming to Vyseheim, Abendrot settled on a few more things he wanted to do. He wanted to spend a bit more time walking around the Afterglow, taking in the sights of the vibrant district. He wanted to perform on a few more instruments, for the first time experiencing the charm of music. He wanted to apologize to Cherny, to tell him how much strength his music has brought him. He wanted Cherny to become his formal music teacher, should he be willing. He wanted to spend more time with Kryide. He didn't know what he wanted to do with that time. Maybe chat, maybe argue, maybe even fight. He didn't know what he wanted to do with the time, but he wanted a little more of it. But he had never come to this city. But had he never come to this city, had he never accepted Gertrude's invitation, none of this would have ever happened. It is his shallowness that has caused things to deteriorate to this extent. He knows how to break free from his dead end, and he is determined to do it. Frankly, had Cherny not devised a new plan, he might have even wanted to carry out Gertrude's plan. But, hypothetically, if the past him had wanted to do this, it would have only been to lessen the weight of sin within his heart. Now, however, he will say that it is not for atonement. He shoots a glance at Cherny and at Kryide. One, an eminent maestro, the other, his dear new friend. He thinks to himself, they deserve to live much more than he does. What he does not realize is that the moment he opened himself up completely to the music, he was no longer able to hide his emotions. Abendrot, don't do anything stupid.
Huh, Graf Urtica, my dear, you are this piece's beginning. Even if you forcibly reverse this piece and incorporate it into your own mind, how will you deal with the dissonance and contradiction? Struggle to your dying breath. One by one, they all want to flee. They all want to flee their fates. But how and why? For 15 years I've lived in their shadows, but at long last, I have won. I've won. Fate is on my side. None of you will escape. Not a single one.
How unsightly. The musician seems to be fighting against the very music they play. Did Gertrude also arrange this?
This I'm not so sure.
A situation seems to have arisen during our performance. Please exit the auditorium. Once again, please exit the auditorium.
Ah, the MC just asked the audience to leave. Look.
Shut him up.
Indeed. What are you doing?
Just shutting up an infected.
Do you have any idea what's going on?
All I know is if you don't shut up as well, you're going to end up the same way.
Don't do it. Even if I can only buy you a little bit of time. Should you ask Kryide whether he wants to break free of his old life? His answer would surely be yes. His grandpa told him that this boy was extremely special, that his body was extremely special, something he gradually discovered himself. The people around him would start to suffer, and those he treated with kindness would leave him in the end, so he started to distance himself from them. But he doesn't find it a terrible existence. The first thing he learned during his long life of vagrancy was that cursing fate doesn't make life any better. He can only find the meaning of his life from the few things he can do in the moment. And now he realizes that is his cue. No life is worth more than any other, but he has made friends and received camaraderie. He feels fulfilled. The sunlight shines warmly outside. It is a good day to die.
What? The cello? Kryide, what is he doing?
Kryide, no, you too.
Herr Czerny, how could the music you poured your life into be trampled like this? Besides, I am the end of the piece. It's only fitting that I do this, right?
Do you have any idea what you're doing?
Ebenholz, don't stop. Just keep matching my rhythm.
But then you'll...
Let's put the finishing touches on our final performance together, okay?
No.
Trust me, Ebenholz, Herr Czerny. I'll take care of this.
I believe in you.
The piece has gone back to normal? No, something's wrong. Kryide is... Mein Herr, something isn't quite right with this infected woman. Look here.
Forget it. Why bother with a common infected? The appreciation of music should come first. Listen, everything goes back to normal now. Seems like whatever happened before was just some shock value for the show.
I assume she wanted to demonstrate the difficulty of controlling the voice of Terra for the purpose of increasing her own value.
Ah, you're right. Maybe she's not half bad after all. Not only did she prepare such an interesting technique for us, she even treated us to an elegant piece of music. The juxtaposition of light and shadow is vividly reflected in the trio of flute, cello, and piano. Finally, the piece approaches its close with an ensemble of cello and piano. Listeners strain their ears, expecting to hear the whispers of the cold night, the embrace of darkness, the call of the abyss. But they are greeted only with a long, drawn out sigh from the void. After what seems like an eternity, applause finally breaks out across the audience that gradually swells with enthusiasm. But before the applause can sweep across the venue, it crashes against the dissonance of horrified screams. It's over. Kryide, you've done it. No, there's still something I have to do. Kryide, what's happening to your body? Abendrot, let's go outside. Herr Czerny, please take Hibiscus and evacuate the audience. Have them get as far away from here as they can. You...
Kryide, your body...
I'm sorry, Herr Czerny, Fräulein Hibiscus. There's so much I want to say to you, but it seems like now isn't the time. Take me there, Abendrot, but I can still control myself. The melody in my head is getting louder and louder. The two melodies are tugging inside my head. Hurry, Abendrot, take me outside. The concert hall is amplifying both melodies at once. I can't hold them for much longer. I know. Abendrot, you... I'll take care of Kryide.
But...
I said I'll take care of Kryide. Hibiscus, go with Herr Czerny and evacuate the crowd. Upon witnessing the metamorphosis taking place on stage, the people in the auditorium begin to flee. Panicked screams follow one after another, and Hibiscus and Czerny's shouts can be heard among them. However, to Abendrot's ears, everything is blurring into white noise. His eyes fixate only on the plaza outside the concert hall. You were planning to do this the entire time, weren't you? Perish the thought. I just did it on a hunch. A hunch? When I said you were being unusually easygoing today, it was all because of a hunch? No. I truly am glad that I got to perform with you and Herr Czerny. This is the happiest I've been my entire life. Then why'd you go and pull a stunt like this? There are still so many happy things waiting for you. But if I didn't, then either you or Herr Czerny would have done it, right? So that means it somehow falls upon you? You've never had a single good day your entire life, whereas I am the one who has had enough of living since a long time ago. It should have been me. Sorry, Abendrot. Why are you apologizing? What do you have to say? What do you have to be sorry for? The way I look now might be truly hideous, right? I've torn up the clothes you had made for me, haven't I? Those nice, expensive clothes. Don't worry about that. I'll buy as many suits as you want. I'm sorry. You liar. I'm furious with you now, Kryide. I'm really mad. Kryide is too weak to lift his head, but he can hear Abendrot's sobbing. What's going on? What the hell just happened?
No idea, but Herr Czerny set the concerts on hold, and that Hibiscus girl was desperately urging us to evacuate. It'll be fine though, nothing's going to happen to us.
But the sky suddenly went dark. Do you think some disaster might actually be coming? Think about what that prophecy said. Fate's finale's ensemble.
Don't worry, it'll be fine. That prophecy also called Hibiscus a fiend.
It's starting to rain.
See? There's nothing to be scared of. It's just a bit of rain.
We're here. Feel any better?
I don't think so. I only managed to forcibly suppress that sensation.
What do I need to do now? Hurry up and tell me.
I want to ask you a few questions.
Go ahead, ask me anything you want. Ebenholz, do you think that your fate is tragic? Is my fate tragic? I used to think so. But after I met you, I realized that the past me was just crying bloody murder over nothing.
That's not your fault. They shackled you, stole your freedom, blindfolded your eyes, and plucked your ears.
That's not your fault.
Then do you think my fate is tragic?
The first time I heard your life story, it really did come as a huge shock to me. But I've gradually learned that your life isn't tragic. In fact, it seems very fulfilling.
That's great to hear.
Kryide, you...
I can't hold it back any longer, but let me finish, Ebenholz. The voice of Terra's completed melody swirls around in my head, and the Witch King's residue power howls from within me. Cruel thoughts are tearing at my chest, forcing me to bow down to fate. They're forcing me to say that our stories were painful, our reunion was misfortune, and that our fates are tragic. But Ebenholz, I will rebuke them. Do you understand, Ebenholz? I won't deny that the voice of Terra has caused us untold suffering. I won't deny that your life as a Graf, filled with humiliation and scorn, was a misfortune. I won't deny that my experiences living an unstable life of wandering have been tragic. But I will always deny these suggestions that my life is defined by those words. My grandpa carried a burden like me around for over 10 years. During those years, I lived in abject poverty, denied a relationship with anyone but Grandpa. But as long as I give kindness to others, I can feel their kindness in return. I even met a teacher who was willing to teach me how to play the cello. Most importantly, after more than 10 years, I met you again. Ebenholz, don't ever forget, we are both subjects of that cruel, inhuman experiment, and we survived. When we feel like cursing our own fates, we cannot afford to forget that. We met each other again, became friends again, and delivered a perfect performance on stage together. Are we not lucky? We've already been blessed. Actually, is there anyone out there luckier than us? No, and there never will be.
I understand. I get it.
No, you still don't get it.
Kryde's voice is already laced with a deep rumbling, the growl of a monster. But to Ebenholz, even those words are gentle, like words of advice from an older brother to his younger sibling before a long trip.
If you really get it, then please don't weep for me. Ebenholz, my dearest brother. We were supposed to die together here, to bury everyone in the entire concert hall along with us. But we fought. To others, this resistance might seem insignificant, but it was a chance for us to give everything for each other. This was a sacrifice that both of us were willing to make. It just happened to be me who did it in the end. That's all. What a wonderful opportunity to give everything for each other, asking nothing in return. We walked the path of rebellion against fate, just like her Czerny did when he poured his life into composing this piece for us. So stand up and hold your head high, Ebenholz. There's still one last thing for you to do, and that is to use everything you have to defeat me, to keep me from destroying everything here. Do you understand?
I do.
I really like that look in your eyes.
Kryide unsteadily shambles to the center of the plaza. With each step he takes, originium crystals erupt from his body, his flesh and blood beginning to churn. A strange melody lingers over the plaza. The crystals rapidly envelop Kryde's body, transforming into armor, transforming into instruments. In a heartbeat, the being once known as Kryide is swallowed up, and in his place stands a monstrosity. Anyone who sees this monster has 3 words flash into his mind. The Witch King. We stand at a critical juncture, my exalted dominant Heron, my dear infected brothers and sisters. And you too, Abendrot. Hearken, listen well to my final piece. Castigate me, lament for me, cry for me, sing for me. Because today I shall die, and you will be reborn.
And here we go into the battle stage itself. So, what do we have here? Kryide, worldly remains. Kryde's form, covered in layers of originium, calls forth only fear in Leithanien. He stopped the voice of Terra from consuming others, yet he himself was consumed in turn. He tried to save everyone present, yet there remains only one way to save him. So, this is a boss stage. No extra drops from the stage, so you just need to complete it once. And here we go. I will let the stage play at normal speed on top of that.
みんなくれぐれも安全にね。やるぞ。
Obviously, don't think of what I'm doing here as a strategy of completing the stage. This is pretty much just what I cobbled together quickly so I can actually start recording today.
ここが戦場。お前にかける情けはない。
戦場で響く楽物には注意をしろ。特にリターニア人が相手に来る。
誰にも縛られるつもりはない。怖くはないわ。かの深き海より参りました。
無駄だ。
行くよ。愚か者。
I just want to point out this sound Kryide does every time he plays the cello.
できることならこれが最後であってほしいです。
Or rather, one of the bigger moves.
これより索敵を行う。痛みを感じるなら言ってください。深淵に帰りなさい。 黙っていろ。準備完了。
And for a moment, the actual Kryide breaks through and helps us out during the battle.
痛みを感じるなら言ってください。お前にかける情けはない。
You can even see his eye breaking through the mask there. And we enter phase 2.
援護する。
戦場で響く楽の音には注意をしろ。特にリターニア人が相手の時に。
悪くない場所だ。
非凡な楽曲は旋律。
飛ぶでもがいてろ。 落ち着いて。痛みを感じるなら言ってください。切りつく。
失せろ。
敵はどこ？お前はもう戻れないんだよ。
And here we can speed up.
痛みを感じるなら言ってください。切りつく。 作戦完了。全目標の相当
You know, I'll tell you this straight up. At least you don't have to have the mission results screen like this after the next cutscene, like I did. That kind of broke the pace, I will not lie. So, let's continue with the after part. Stupid, foolish boy. You didn't have to do this. Why would you go so far for a world that owes you so much? Sir,
You must leave now. Originium activity is rising rapidly in this area.
I want to see my grandson one last time.
Only a little further, Hibiscus. Distract him.
Kryide, Grandpa's here.
You...
Kryide, my boy. Vent whatever anger you have on me. Come to me before you do any more harm. I've deceived you for so many years. I thought about dying for your sake, but I never thought you would come to an end like this. If your choice is to let the others live, why not let me come with you in my last days? Let me join you on your final journey, my boy.
The crystalline monster no longer understands the old man's words. The flash of lucidity was a fleeting miracle. All the monster can think about now is dragging everything around it into emptiness, dancing to his cellо's tune. The monster follows the sound, playing a song of death. Sir!
Young lady, why do you...
I'll hold down the fort here, Ebenholz. Now!
Huh!
How? Friendship, dedication, sacrifice, such childish ideals should have been shuttered upon contact with reality. How? How? It's not over yet. Kryide may have forcibly assimilated 2 verses of the voice of Terra, but he could not overcome the disorder and madness of their amalgamation. Kryde's melody has faded, but Ebenholz's voice lingers.
Enough, Greffinstrollo. Gertrude's limp hand drops from the strings. Beagler withdraws his dagger from Gertrude's back. The blood stains his clothes red. The originium outer shell cracks and falls apart. The plaza falls silent, the only sound being inert pieces of originium shell falling to the ground. Finally, the shell shatters completely, leaving behind Kryide lying on the ground with his cello.
Wait for me. Wait for me. No, it's dangerous. You should call infected palliative services.
What are you saying? Kryide would die. You're awake, Kryide. See? He'll be fine.
Ebenholz?
I'm here. It's me.
Don't bother.
Kryide takes a deep breath.
I feel so light. It hurts so much, but I feel better now.
Yes, you'll get better. Yes.
Listen carefully, Ebenholz. This is the last time I'll be able to talk to you. Remember my words. Live on, Ebenholz, and walk through the long night. Fight injustice, and treat others with generosity and charity. Only by doing so will I live on in your memory. I'll ask you, how did your day go, Ebenholz? And you'll tell me proudly that you had a good and productive day. You'll tell me about the challenges you face while doing good and complain about how fate is a miser. And it will be okay because I'll be listening. It's alright to complain a little when you've worked so hard. Only by doing so will you rise above pain and suffering and find peace in your heart. Remember that we fought together against cruel fate and won. When you think of me, laugh. Don't cry.
Yes.
And Ebenholz, I'm sorry. I haven't thought about what token to give you.
Anything's fine. Just don't die, please. Kryide? Kryide? Kryide! They'll find themselves shattered someday, but that day is not today. Friendship, dedication, sacrifice. They may be naive, but someone will shed a tear for them. What about you, though, Gräfin Strollo? You destroyed your friendship with Czerny by your own hands. You killed your own brother and laughed at his incompetence. You want others to sacrifice for you, but what have you done for them? Gertrude lies limp on the ground, with only her lips moving slightly.
May curse be upon you.
Beagler reads Gertrude's lips.
May you die in dark ditch. May the madness of Ebenholz's bloodline haunt him forever. May the Afterglow fall into ruin. May Leithanien ever tremble in the shadow of the Witch King. May the Witch King never know the peace of death.
Pathetic. Maybe I acted out of impulse, but dealing with threats to public safety is also part of my job. I'll be sure to mention you in my report, Gräfin Strollo. Good night. I hope your dreams don't involve cursing anybody.
Your hand's bleeding. Did you get scratched by the Virginian crystals?
Yes, I guess there's a bit of blood.
You need treatment immediately.
Treatment? It's Kryide who needs treatment.
Ebenholz, he's...
Don't say it, Hibiscus. I beg you.
Alright. He's infected, Ebenholz. If you don't want palliative services to get involved, at least find a room that's isolated for his own sake.
I know. The lounge at the concert hall.
Alright, I'll take him there.
I will. Come, Kryide. I'll carry you. Ebenholz lifts Kryide up. The Originium crystals inflict more wounds on him, but he pays them no mind, no heed. He carries his friend, even as he feels the body cooling, as though embracing a short but sweet dream. We're almost there, Kryide. Just a little longer.
Thank you.
You're still alive. I'll take you to Hibiscus.
Lay me to rest in this building. If you return to the Afterglow someday, remember that you once had a good friend with whom you laughed and argued here. And at the least, put on a duet to remember.
No, you're not Kryide. You're...
Isn't this what you wanted?
Shut your mouth. I won't allow you to defile his memory. Kryide gave his life to cleanse the voice of Terra, but it's still in my head. I warn you, Don't think I'll hesitate to blow my head off if you dare imitate him one more time. My foolish bloodline. Ebenholz no longer hears the voice. He walks towards the lounge in Afterglow Hall, Kryde's body growing heavier in his arms with each step. We're here. I'll seal the room. Lie down on the sofa. It's soft. It'll feel nice. Soft sofa. You've never slept on one at home. Looks like I've been infected. Arts that once took so much effort now feel so simple. Maybe getting infected isn't so bad after all. That should do it. I'll seal the door from the outside. Anything else? A token. Yes, a token. I'll take the cello. Look at me, taking back something I bought for you. Ebenholz's lips tremble. He stands wordless for a moment before laying his flute at Kryde's side. You said you wanted a coin with a hole, but the only thing I have left is this flute. I'm sorry. So sorry. And we proceed to the final portion of today. From the New World. Some have but old friends, and no old home. Just a quick addendum. I have no idea who the two people here in this first little tiny bit are supposed to be who are talking to each other, so I'm just gonna do two random impressions, so don't think too much on them. Is that all there is? I'm not hiding even a shred of truth from you. The way this was handled was quite the surprise. How can we proceed now? How should we proceed? We don't. This never had anything to do with you to begin with. All we're doing now is making adjustments to how the territory in question will be handled. How does that have to do anything with you? You're right about that, but with how things turned out, those infected will get to stay on that city plate. It'll be difficult to keep them from gossiping about this. And who would believe infected nonsense? Then what shall we do next? What shall we do next? There is no rush. We still have lots to do. That's all I have to report for this incident. Yep, this is one of the two empresses that you're looking at in her full splendor and glory and detail. Thank you. Have you located a piece that this journeyman wrote during the incident? The Empress's voice is ready to transcribe it at any moment and can personally play it for you in a few hours. No need. I can listen to the recording. Not bad. I can even hear him crying from the bottom of his heart as he wrote the piece. He's a talented man. Too bad he's not quite talented enough.
So, how did it go? Not bad. It didn't get worse. Adante said the infected deterioration caused by the incident was unusual. Most infections went into a continuous stable phase, and I'm no exception. It's not going to get worse again like before, right? Adante said they looked into the phenomenon pretty thorough. Apparently nearly all of the originium that got activated during the incident has gone into an extended low active state. In other words, I get to hang around a little longer. Thank goodness. Right, does Adante know what the Herzog is going to do with the Afterglow? Herzog is Duke, if I remember right, in English. Well, this is just what she said. She said she heard, but apparently the Empress's voice has requested the Herzog not lay a finger on the Afterglow. Oh, thank the heavens, and thank their Majesty's kindness. Keep it down. What should we do from now on out? Oh, shut up. You don't think things have gotten out of hand enough as is? What to do from here on out? Live one day at a time, that's what. I want to live more than a day, though. Then you should really keep your mouth shut.
Hibiscus, I finally get it now. There are some things that you'd better off not knowing anything about. I guess I'll apply to be transferred somewhere else as soon as I'm done with the follow-up work here. Maybe I'll go to the land ship. That sounds nice.
Don't move. It took a lot of effort just to find you. Huh. Do you have anything to say? It was your man who tricked Kryide into coming to Vyseheim, right? Everything you said was the truth, except for the bit about payment. You knew he was in a hurry to make money for my treatment, and you lured him into this mess with that. But you two had nothing against each other. Why did you do it? If I told you, I'd have to kill you. I don't have much longer to live to begin with. Alright then, seeing as we're old colleagues, I will tell you. Gräfin Strolla was already looking for Kryide, and she was very close to finding him. So what? Kryide was always there by my side, and that practically meant I had full control of him. You read her research notes. You know full well just how terrifying her work on the Voice of Terror was. Until I got my hands on her notes, all I knew was that she had put a lot of time into researching this subject, but I never knew the true extent of her research. If we'd let her continue working, she might just have been able to do something even more appalling with the Voice of Terra, say triggering and inducing resonance at much greater ranges. You could have woken up in the morning and found your grandson transformed into a monster. Would you have wanted that? Rather than letting things come to that, it was much better to bring Kryide right to her. Put the rush on her, and let her put her plan into motion before she could work out the kinks. So, any more questions? What would you have done if Ebenholz hadn't found the amplifiers in the Afterglow hall? What do you think? However the Afterglow turned out, that's how I would have turned out myself. No further questions. Come with me then. Not going to kill me? I've got no reason to kill you, and it would have given me yet another thing to weight on my consciousness. Come, let's head to my shop for a cup of coffee. We'll talk about those stupid, honorable young men. Must I? What do you think? And now, we are on the land ship of Rhode Island.
Lava? Why'd you push yourself like that? If anything happened to you, I'd never ever forgive you. Huh? Oh, you're talking about what happened in Vyseheim, right? Look, I'm all fine. And who was it that had a standoff with an angry mob who didn't evacuate even knowing that she'd be affected by the Voice of Terra? And who fought those people who even She barely learned any arts. Who even thought she learned any arts? I don't remember telling you any of this. I already talked to Mr. Cherny. He told me everything. If you wanted to know all the whys and wherefores, why didn't you come to talk to me directly? I actually visited Mr. Cherny to ask him about my piano teacher in Leithanien, Mr. Johann. And it was only after we kept talking that I found out you almost... I'm warning you, if something like this happens again, don't you dare push yourself like that. You hear me? You hear me? Alright, don't cry anymore. Look, see? I'm alright. But your infection... Yes, it got rather severe thanks to the voice of Terra, but it's under control now, so... No, that's not enough. You're always on my case about my health, but you don't care about what happens to you at all. If I lost you, Lava, I promise, I'll look out for myself more, okay? Really? Really? Don't you dare lie to me. Why would I? The doctor gave me quite a long holiday, you know? I'm going to spend this time well and get some quality rest in. Alright, now you said you asked him about Mr. Johann? How is he? Mr. Cherny said he saw Mr. Johann at a gathering a year ago and that he was fine and well. Speaking of, you went all the way to Leithanien yourself and even got a flute for your wand. Did you learn how to play while you were there? You mean this? The most I'm doing with it is treating it as a wand. I don't know how to play. Really? Of course, really. You're just being shy, aren't you? Why would I be shy about this? I don't believe you. Play something. Well, alright. Here goes. Alright. That's the worst sound I've ever heard in my life. Just nope. Just runs out. Runs away. Love it.
Thanks for your concern, Doctor. I'm feeling very well. And I must thank you again for the protection you are offering the Afterglow. If you and Rhode Island hadn't intervened, the Empress's voice would never have lifted a finger for my home. Helping the infected is Rhode Island's creed. It's exactly as you said, and I'm starting to appreciate that more and more. I suppose there must be a reason you summoned me here.
Excuse me, text for ends. Zoom! And by zoom, I mean I literally went closer to the monitor. I'm literally 20 centimeters away from this thing, and it's a 1440p monitor. Hypergriff, please, for the love of God. You asked to be deployed on the front lines, and I have to confirm your intentions. Fuck's sake. I've already written my thoughts in full on the report. Your condition's stable, but your infection's serious. Anything can happen in battle. I'm prepared. Truth be told, Doctor, when Hibiscus helped me up and walked me to the concert hall, I was already prepared to die. Even though so much has happened, and things turned out nothing like I had imagined, I lived. It really feels quite peculiar, and I cannot describe it very well, better through words or music. I'm not expecting to find how to express this feeling on the battlefield, but I'm thinking that it might prove beneficial if I try to fight for the infected in an entirely different way. I understand how you feel, but do wait for your evaluation results. I understand. Speaking of which, Ebenholz is here too, is he? Of course. I haven't seen him at all since the day after we arrived at Rhode Island. Sometimes I can't help but think that the black-clad Graf Urtica might have actually died.
Well, according to Leithanien's official reports, he is indeed gone. You're right. Well then, I take my leave now, Doctor.
God damn it, text for ants!
Speaking of Abendrot, it happens the next thing on my agenda has to do with him. Do you want to see him? Never mind. I don't dare to claim I know how much this incident has affected him. I can only imagine. If there comes a day when he's willing to see me or Hibiscus, we'll talk then. Goodbye, Doctor.
Goodbye. Also, for those wondering what the text below there says, it says, I look forward to hearing the music you'll write off the battlefield and hope it'll be no less impressive than your past work. Hypergriff. Please, for the love of God. But anyway, goodbye.
Doctor, I'm surprised you found me here.
Some nice fresh air with all the wind here. Helps de-stress.
I don't need distressing.
I digress. I'm a messenger today. Here's a letter for you.
A letter? Where is it from?
I'm sorry if I'm interjecting so much during this episode, but I want to point out that every time I see the landship, and it is very rare they show the landship, by the way, from like a side point of view, in any bit of story outside of the main plot maybe. But I want to point out, has someone ever played a game called Homeworld Deserts of Karak? Doesn't this just look like the ship from the side? The carrier, the sand carrier. Is it just me? But anyway, especially matches with the colors. Anyway.
A letter? Where is it from?
Leithanien.
I have an idea what it is. Hand it over.
Need me to stay and open it with you? One of my many services.
You're a funny one.
I get that a lot.
I really can imagine you in a fight. Are you always this lighthearted when you're out commanding battles?
And again, the third text below that is super small. I wouldn't mind you getting a little less serious when you're off to a field operation. But I'll go with the awkward laugh.
Is this how you always react when you're embarrassed?
I'm going then. Enjoy your time alone.
That goes without saying. This is the passport of a Leithanien citizen, Abendrot. Kryide's and Graf Urtica's death certificates. There's a note. There's more? A letter. It's not signed. An anonymous letter. Just my impression of her. Rhode Island operator Abendrot presses the tip of his wand to the letter and sets it ablaze. Not long after, the flames reach the passport, then the Count of Urtica's death certificate, and then Kryide's. The smell of burning paper spreads across the deck. Abendrot picks up the cello next to him. He thinks back to how his dear friend played the cello,
closes his eyes and begins to play a simple, lively melody. When the twin empresses first took control, countless pieces of music singing their praises sprung up all over Leithanien. This, too, is one of those pieces. Today, the second half of the song has long been forgotten. Only the first half is still sung by a small number of people. Thanks to its uplifting melody, and the lyrics openly express the singer's cheerful mood. The sunset is glaring bright. And thus we conclude the story. And if you thought it couldn't hit again in the feels, well, guess again. Guess again. They had to sneak that last one bit in, didn't they? But alright, this concludes this story. As I said, if there's going to be a extra piece with the EX stages once they open up, I will obviously record that and add it to the playlist that this is already under. But like I said, I will also end this video with a piece of music, so stick around or just skip through this couple of minute part while I just talk about the characters. But in general, like I said at the beginning, I did enjoy this story very well. I think the two boys were very well portrayed, especially their ever-growing friendship from the very moment the two pretty much meet. Like that little chance meeting of the two. Even though it was obviously a bit orchestrated as well, but still, their growing friendship, them supporting each other, figuring out that they actually know each other from their childhoods, that they went through hell as children, and then, oh boy, the end of Kryide sacrificing himself to pretty much save everybody, but oh boy. And yeah, then we have Czerny. Czerny is like, at the beginning you don't really get much of a picture of him besides what is described and how he handles himself, talks to others, such and such. But my god, does the story paint a picture of him as a person when he went through hell to compose that last song. Those pictures where he's just like profoundly bleeding and rummaging through the fucking composition that is literally killing him as he's writing it. But yeah, what a character as well. Hibiscus as well, she is definitely interesting and definitely completely different to what, well, not really completely different, but definitely feels like a completely different person when it comes to her old self that appears in a couple of places here and there. And when you hear her, especially when you go into her voice file and listen to old Hibiscus talk, the really cheerful, chirpy one, and then this one that is like very composed, would that be the word to go for with? There, like completely different, almost completely different people. But yeah, and as for our dear Gräfin Gertrude, well, I don't know how other people are gonna view her as a villain. I think she worked very well as the villain of this story, because she wasn't just your typical villain, haha, I do bad things. No, she basically in that last section there that we just went over a couple of minutes ago, pretty much portrayed what she was trying to achieve. Her whole family was pretty much being puppeteered, well, at least after their father died and the emperor also died before him. They were literally starting to be puppeteered by an unknown group of people who are worshipping the late emperor, and or rather his the things he left behind. And no matter what she did, she never got recognition for what she was doing. Barely anything at all. At maybe once as she portrayed there. Pretty much ignored, and she's pretty much on a tip point of, if she is not useful for them, they're just gonna kill her. So she said at one point, well, screw all of this shit. I'm gonna kill everybody then. Because the city is pretty much somewhere deep down infested with those people, and luring them all into one place and then setting off a massive Originium chain reaction, just infecting the entire city potentially. It would definitely kill everybody, and she was ready to go with them. Now I do have the question, if I presume from the way it is displayed there, if our dear coffee maker spy has actually killed her, or if in last second, like we see on her in battle, she can leave an after image of herself with her arts. Maybe she just used a very strong after image and he didn't notice, but we'll see. They definitely left the story a bit, well, the story itself concluded, let's be fair here. This story about Ebenholz, Kryide, and Cherny concluded, but this definitely served as a good little glimpse into Leithanien. They even showed one of the empresses in-game, which is great. So we get to see one, and they are twins, so I mean, just imagine the other one, but with black hair and black dress. You can see it in episode 1 in that graphic portray of the history and death of the Emperor, when you can see both of them in, like, the portrait isn't obviously in-game style, but they're twins. What else is there to say? But there's definitely, like in pretty much every country that you can imagine in this game, there is more shit going on, and all of these stories are pretty much just building forward. Now, the only other thing I can say here is, I cannot really give you when this story is taking place in, like, the time narrative. The only thing I can say is that it's taking potentially place at the same time as either actually, yeah, it should be taken, because it gets somewhat alluded to, taking place I think at the same time as Who is Real, the side story where we meet Dusk. Or actually might be when Invitation to Wine, which is the second part of that story. Which, by the way, if you want to view those, I've did narrations of both of those over the last summer, so they are on the channel if you want to listen to them. They're pretty good stories, especially the second one, Invitation to Wine, which delves quite a bit deeper into some of the characters and the back and the region of Yan itself. But coming back to this is approximately taking place at the same time, because if I remember correctly, I can't remember if it's Cruz or Lava who mentions that Hibiscus is on an assignment, but I can't remember if they say specifically that she is in Leithanien or not. But they definitely, one of them definitely says something about Hibiscus being on an assignment. That I do remember. And so that's the time frame, at least for these 3 stories, let's put it that way. But when they are actually taking place, I could not tell you. They might be taking place after Act 2, because so far in the timeline of the game, the story that is set the furthest into the future is a story that also released literally a couple of months ago, by the title of Guiding Ahead, which took place in Laterano in the year 1099, if I remember correctly, while the main story of the game begins and concludes on the literally at the end of the year 1096, beginning 1097. That's Act 1 conclusion. And then Act 2 begins somewhere later in the same year, so later in 1097. And there is a couple of side stories that are taking place in between there. But regardless, outside of that, really cannot say when this is taking place. I'm just gonna presume that it's taking place maybe a bit after the events of the entirety of Act 2, potentially. But it was a good story. It was a good read. Definitely wrung out some emotions out of me there at the end there. I mean, the red flags have been waved since the very beginning of this story about, definitely about Kryide, because for you guys who might be listening to this and are new to the game, I want you to remember one rule that the game usually goes by when it comes to recruitable characters. If they are alive and they are in some way or fashion deemed through the story alignable with Rhode Island, be it through some kind of contract because they work for another company, or they actually join Rhode Island full-time, you will be able to recruit them. If a character dies or somehow is preoccupied in other ways that doesn't allow them to be seen or working for Rhode Island, you will not be able to recruit them. I want to emphasize if they die, you're not getting them. Unless they change sometime in the future, that is the current rule. There is only one character in this game that technically doesn't exist, but is a what-if scenario. But outside of that, pretty much every character is someone who, at some point in time, either in secret or officially works for Rhode Island. So, even though they've talked about Kryide getting Kryide to Rhode Island during the story, I was like, yeah, that's not happening. I can smell the bait there. Oh, Hypergriff, I can smell the bait there. But yeah, outside of that, like I said, great story, great characters, lots of emotions, cool music. And like I said at the beginning as well, I will leave a link to a Reddit post where a Redditor compiled literally every title of every stage and what the titles refer to. So have a read through that. It's actually amazing. A lot of classical music stuff, operas, and so on and so forth. And also the music that you will be about to hear, like I said at the beginning as well, currently it's music that is not on the official Arknights channel, but should be potentially in a couple of days. It is available on Bilibili, but outside of that, there are definitely a couple of Arknights YouTubers who have uploaded the music piece, and I will link to one such, but in the future, when the music becomes actually available on the official channel, I will swap the link. So if anybody in the future is actually clicking on the link, please don't be confused if I'm saying it's gonna lead now to another channel. In the future leads to the official channel. I will swap up the links once an official link is available. But that doesn't mean it will not be of a good quality. But anyway, how did you guys like the story? Was it good? Did you like the characters? And most importantly, like I asked at the beginning, considering we will have a slight lull when it comes now to side story, and I will next week continue the narrations for the main story with chapter 9, or rather episode 9. If you want any other side story narrated that I haven't done yet on the channel, please leave a comment in the comment section below, and well, we'll see. We'll see. But anyway, I hope you had a fantastic time. Hope it didn't hit too much in the emotions. Just a fantastic time, and I realized, oh boy, how did this end? But we will conclude with a musical piece right now, so all I can say is, I hope you have a fantastic day, wherever you are, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, bye-bye.
spent my life suffocating, ignoring villains, leaving inside me all my guilt is never fading. It forever lives on under my skin, killing me from within. You stay a part of me for the rest of my life. You tighten your grip like shackles on both my wrists. You stay a part of me for the rest of my life. I once was a dreamer, but then I grew up and saw the real world. When I look in the mirror, I can almost see you rolling under my skin, killing me from within. Will you stay a part of me for the rest of my life? I bit my tongue for years. I choked back